Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of How We Got Here. If you're new to the show, this is your first time listening, it's going to be a great one. But just to give you a little gist, the show is self-explanatory. It's called How We Got Here. We either take a topic or a guest and talk about, how they got here. And my name is Jay. We do have Terry with us. Paul is the other co-host. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it tonight, and I'm not going to tell anybody why, because he will be back in 2 weeks, and he is on a very special trip and has some very exciting news, so I'm not going to spoil that fun for him because it's pretty amazing what he's been doing and what he's doing now. So today we have with us Terry Flannery. We're going to talk about him. We're going to find out, what makes him tick, what got him to where he is today. Terry, introduce yourself.
Terry Flannery, owner of Wiseman Crossing Woodworks.
What's that?
Woodworking company. I started out of my garage a few years ago. I can get into that more, but
Yeah, that's where you're at right now.
yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Right, and
Yeah.
we're going to get to that later, but I do want to kind of get it out there, promote it a little bit, because it is a business, right? You're looking to make some money.
Yeah.
You brought a nice piece tonight. Like I don't think I could ever make anything really, but I think you're looking to get into like furniture and stuff too, right now.
Yeah, moving into furniture. Did some a few years ago, and then over the last couple years, I've done some furniture.
Okay, and I've seen a lot of your shit, and it's pretty sweet. Do you have a Facebook website?
Facebook website, Instagram, TikTok. We're on everything.
Is it all Wiseman Crossing Woodworking?
Just Wiseman Crossing. You can search that, and it'll bring everything
Okay,
up.
and I do want to talk about later, so just make sure to remind me how you came to that name.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about it now.
Yeah.
So let's just to give a little background. Terry and I went to the same high school together. I think you grew up in Gallatin County, right?
Good old Gallatin County.
And I came there my freshman or sophomore year, I think. I can't remember.
Yeah, that seems about right.
So tell me about you growing up as a child in Gallatin County, which is the biggest city. We got at least 2 stoplights.
2 stoplights, a Dairy Queen,
Oh, man.
a Dairy Queen, a BP.
And a Snappy Tomato?
Snappy. I forgot about
Oh,
Snappy.
yeah, Snappy.
Snappy and our hometown, so, they're growing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So what was life growing up for you in Gallatin?
So I grew up in a pretty strict Christian household. My parents were both still married together, but they were very strict. My dad worked pretty much night shift most of the time when I was a kid, and my brother and I, we were 3 years apart. We were either doing chores out in the woods or in the pond right behind the house.
Which is pretty much all you can do in Gallatin County.
Yeah. So
I had a buddy, somebody in Gallatin County, either fucking fighting or 4-wheeling.
yeah, or lighting shit on fire. That's what we were doing.
So, but you said your parents were like married but strict. Were they like lovingly married, or married and they got to divorce because God says you can't do that?
No, they're lovingly married, still married. Great example. I'm very appreciative for that. It's especially. I've been divorced a couple times, so.
A couple?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
We'll get into that.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll
all
get
right.
there, man. We'll get there.
So, strict family, like Pentecostal, Baptist, what?
Baptist, Southern Baptist. So it's crazy. My mom was raised Catholic, and my dad was raised Baptist. And when they got married,
Well, listen. If I'm Catholic, okay, and if you're going to go between a Baptist and a Catholic, who is probably more convicted in their faith, it's a Baptist.
oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It was funny though because my mom decided to go the Baptist way and followed my dad, so that was a big uproar, with her family because they're Catholic. Everybody's been Catholic, and then she goes into that, and I always used to joke because the Catholics would always drink, the Baptists would never drink, and the Baptists would smoke, and none of the Catholics would smoke. So any family reunion, I would just sit in the middle and drink and smoke.
so you did, so like smoke like a cigarettes?
Yeah,
or?
cigarettes.
Okay.
So I was like,
I didn't know that was a thing.
I don't think it is. I think it's part of they were country people. My dad's people are country people. Being in Kentucky, tobacco is a big thing.
Yeah.
And just
I used
being,
to,
plus they were 2 large families. So, my mom's family is Catholic, so of course there were 7 kids.
Oh yeah.
My dad's family, 7 kids. Somebody asked me, why did they have 7 kids? I said, I'm pretty sure that they were just bored hillbillies. There's nothing else to do.
So it's one of the 3 F's.
Right.
You got one brother?
2 brothers, actually. I've got my brother, Tony, who's 3 years younger than me, and then Ty is 16 years younger than me. I came home from the family farm one summer. My mom was crying on the bed, and she said, I'm pregnant.
I remember that.
And I said,
I remember you coming to school and be like, damn it.
I was like, what? I remember I literally said, does Dad know? And she was like, she'd been riding 4-wheeler like the week before that with us, which probably explains some of his brain damage.
Yeah, but you got 3. It's 3 boys.
Yeah, 3 boys.
My God, I feel for your mom, man.
My poor mom, yeah.
Because I know you and I know Tony. I mean, I don't know Tony. I know Tony. I've never hung out with him that much, but I know he's a hellraiser.
Yeah.
And I know you were.
Yep. We, I mean, what else was there to do in Gallatin County? But
yeah, have a good time. Light shit on fire.
yeah.
But you grew up there your entire life?
Yes. I mean, I lived in Richwood till I was 3. So, I mean, basically my entire life. We moved there after Tony was born because he's the favorite. So,
Oh, is he the favorite?
We had to move.
Oh, because he needed Gallatin County was where he wanted to go?
No, I guess. No, they wanted more open room for us to be able to wander.
Well, that's the thing, because I came to Gallatin County High School my sophomore year. I think it was sophomore year. And you could tell who were the kids that grew up together.
Yeah.
And who were the outsiders kind of sneaking in. Because if you grew up together in Gallatin County, you better damn bring your tractor to school and bring your tractor to school day.
If you had a tractor.
If you had a tractor, yeah. Muddy truck day.
Muddy truck day. I remember I was talking to somebody about this not too long ago because they were like, there were 1,000 people in their graduating class. They go, how many did you have? And I was like, 69.
Was it 69? I thought it was like.
Or
and you know what?
Like
you know
that.
what they did? I was looking back at my sister had a yearbook, and I was looking at the big group photo they took of us.
Yeah.
You know where they put Michael Mumphrey?
No.
Right in the fucking middle. Right in the damn middle.
I mean, it's small country town.
Yeah. I'm like, and he's, by the way, if you know, Michael Mumphrey's a 6'8" big ass black dude. Yeah. One of only 3 in our entire school.
3. Yeah. Back then.
Yeah. Back then. I don't know what it is now, but I was like, come on, man. Like, he's tall. Put him in the back. I mean, they put him right in the middle of everybody.
Now I'm gonna have to go pull my yearbook out so I can look at that.
Yeah, I think it was crazy. I was like, holy shit. So tell me about strict family Christian household. What does that mean?
Strict. I mean, it's funny because they're not strict now. I tell my kids that how strict my dad was, and the military was easy when basic training, getting yelled at. All these other guys were freaking out, and I was like, well, this is nothing. My dad used to yell at me right in my face, like whatever.
When he was happy.
Yeah. But my kids are like, Papa's not mean like that. And I said, that's an old man trying to get into heaven.
Yeah.
And save himself. So I said, don't let that fool you.
I grew up with a strict dad, stepfather. My real father, I didn't meet him until I was 13, but whoopings.
Oh yeah. Whoopings. It was 80s and 90s growing up,
I tell you what, being a strict Baptist, it takes a toll on you.
Yeah. There was, we didn't do Halloween. We did Hallelujah Night.
I wasn't allowed to watch Smurfs.
Smurfs.
Because it was magic.
That's true. And they're a cult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember that. I wasn't allowed to read Goosebump books after a while.
But why do you think they're not? What do you mean say not so strict? They're still going to church, or are they still just they just don't have the power over you anymore?
No, they still have the power of me to an extent. That respect's still there. I think the difference is that respect with them, and especially in the 90s, respect wasn't earned through the way it is with kids now. It was fear, respect. That kind of like that was parenting. That's all you knew. That's
you
what
thought twice before you made a decision.
Yeah,
that could affect your ass.
Oh yeah. And I knew when Dad got home, my ass was getting beat if I did something or said something.
You messed up.
Yeah.
Because Mama, she's going to tell Dad.
Yeah. Well, she would whip us. And I remember my mom whipped us one time, and we laughed.
Oh.
Dude. She whipped us even harder, and then Dad whipped us when he got home.
So I hated when my mom whooped me because she whooped me out of anger and did not aim and grabbed whatever was available, coat hanger, shoe, spatula, and there was no hitting you on the ass. It was you're getting hit wherever I hit you.
Yeah, don't move.
Yeah. And whereas my dad, it was a punishment, right? He wasn't angry at you. It was okay, you did something wrong, you messed up,
You're a dumbass.
you're an idiot. and then spank you 2-3 swats. What I hated the most, I would rather get a whooping than his lectures. Your dad ever give you lectures growing up?
Yeah, lectures, but I would rather have the lectures, I think.
Oh, I hated them. I was like, just spank me and get it over with.
That's true. I could see that part of it. Yeah, you after a while, like they're beating a dead horse, and you're like, I got it.
Yeah, man, I get it.
Yeah,
I messed up. Okay?
I'm dumb.
I shouldn't have smoked a joint behind the.
I shouldn't have lit Mom's Tupperware on fire.
Yeah, I shouldn't been throwing bottle rockets out of my window.
Dude, yeah, that's what my brother and I were doing. My dad's on third shift sleeping.
What did he do?
So when he was on third shift, he was working at the local pizza factory here. So like the school pizzas that we had.
Yeah.
He made those for Sabatassos up here in Florence.
Okay. And is he still doing that? Is he retired now or?
No, he's meat cutter for Kroger. He actually retires in June.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, he's been doing that since before Ty, the youngest, was born.
Now,
So.
Is there any memory that you have growing up as a kid that kind of sticks out in your mind as like a moment that not really defined you, but kind of you still remember to this day?
I have to think about that. Having the freedom that we had living in the country and being able to go out to the pond, go out into the woods. The guy that owned the pond behind our house was an old Vietnam vet, and he basically just told us, stay out of my shit. You can go back in the woods, go four-wheeling, do whatever you want. So we were like, hell yeah. So we would ride all the way to Glencoe, which was super far past where my parents said we could ride.
Ooh.
Down railroad tracks.
They ever find out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Or if not, they're going to find out right now.
Yeah. Well, you're going to get a whooping when you get home.
I might get a whoop.
Man, so because there is something to be said about that freedom, because I moved around a lot as a kid, and I didn't have the freedom to kind of go out into the woods, but wherever we lived, it was go outside and play, and having the ability to just scream and holler with your friends in person. And now my son, screams and hollers with his friends over a microphone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's totally different world that they're growing up in. The world we grew up in is gone.
You know what? Let me ask you this. When you were in like elementary school, you date any girls from Allen County?
No.
Well, middle school.
I had like girlfriends.
Who?
Shonda Davis is my first girlfriend.
Oh,
Shonda.
man.
So she dated a friend.
This is elementary school.
Elementary school.
Okay.
Yeah. Middle school. No. Middle school was super awkward. Like
I had a crush on Shonda a little bit.
Dude, I was awkward and nerdy. You remember, like, I was a nerdy little kid.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Well, maybe that was just me. I felt that way. I didn't have a clique or a group. I just tried to hang out with everybody.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You did, because I don't know if I really had a clique or a friend. I hung out with Jacob Rogers a lot and somebody else. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Dude, it's harder.
We had 69 kids in our class. I can't remember.
20-something years.
I mean, like, hung out with Klumper a couple times, Tony, and but like, wasn't like part of a group, right? So, but I thought you kind of still hung out with everybody. You weren't really an outcast, I wouldn't say.
No. I don't think there were really many outcasts being that small of a group.
Well, I think if you were an outcast, you wanted to be.
Yeah. You chose to be.
Yeah, you weren't an outcast because somebody made you one. You were one because you listened to Korn one day and you thought it was cool.
Yeah. You were like, this is cool.
So you dated Shonda Davis.
Just, dude, that was
You're a lucky
elementary.
guy.
Like my first crush. That was one of my memories. First crush.
And then we get into middle school, we get into high school. So you were in the Army, right?
Well, so like we were in high school, 2001, our senior year. I was in history class, and I don't even remember who busted in the door, but they busted in. They were like, turn on the TV. Somebody just flew a plane into a tower in New York.
I was in history class with Mr. Jones.
Then we must have been, I was in Miss Wilson's class.
across the
Across
hall.
the hall, yeah.
Yeah, because Coach Jones, I was in his class. I think he taught history. So you're talking about September 11th.
Yeah. So get in there, or they turned on the TV, and I was like, "What?" We were 17. Nobody knew what was going on. None of us do. Next thing I know, the office calls. You're being checked out. You need to take your brother and drive home. My grandpa had been sick, so I was like, "Oh shit, my grandpa died." Like, that's all I thought all the way home. Like, I wasn't thinking like this thing I just saw on TV was a trajectory that would change my life and the U.S. and everything else. It was just, it was an accident. By the time I get to the house, 15, 20-minute ride, there's more coverage going on. Then we watched the second plane hit, and it was just like, what the hell? And I remember working that day. Like, my parents had freaked out. My grandpa's a Navy vet, and he was at our house because they were looking at buying land in Owen County. And he told my mom, he was like, "We're under attack. You need to bring the kids home."
Your grandpa did.
Yeah. Yeah. So my mom was like, "Oh shit."
He knew right away.
I think he picked up on it because, and it makes sense to look at it from that way, because why would a plane, especially after the second one hit, it kind of solidified, I think, for everybody.
So what do you have to say to those people out there who say, it didn't happen, or, it was a government thing to get to war? Like, what do you say to those people?
So I've talked to several people about this, gone back and forth, gone round and round. There was a time I was literally home. I just got home from Afghanistan, and I was going to the W being fireworks, walking down there, and there was some kid standing on literally a soapbox. He was on a box, and he was like, 9/11 was fake. The Iraq War, he was calling everybody baby killers and all this shit. And I was like, I'm going to beat this dude's ass. Like, I wasn't back for a year, you know? So I turned around, and when I turned around, there was a Covington police officer or Newport police officer standing there. And he said, "Are you a vet?" And he literally, I don't even know how he saw me, because he just stopped me. "Are you a vet?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to kick this guy's ass." And he was like, "I got it. We're getting ready to take him. You go on, because he's inciting violence or something like that. So we're going to take him." So I was like, I don't know who that guy was, but thank you. You stopped me from going to jail for letting my anger get the best of me.
And here's my thoughts on that is, like, whether what you believe really doesn't matter. Okay. Because what the result was is that American people, soldiers, did go fight in a war. Multiple. Yeah. Iraq, Afghanistan. Whether you believe it happened or not, real people went over there to fight. And you gotta you can't let the whole conspiracy theory of that overshadow that real people lost their lives. Whether it was real or not, real people went over there to fight for this country. And if you want to get up there and talk shit, then fucking leave this country.
Yeah. Yeah, like I go back and forth with it, because you've got the right to say whatever you want, and as a soldier, you're fighting for that. You're fighting for the person who agrees with you. You're fighting for the person who doesn't agree with you or has something totally different. It's hard to wrap your mind around that, and I feel like a lot of people still have a hard time when they come back wrapping their mind around, well, I fought for their right to be able to do that. So they can say whatever they want. My whole thing is, people died that day.
Yeah,
those people died that day. They were not part of an inside anything. If it was an inside job,
real people died.
Real people died. Real people continued to die for years afterwards. So I remember talking to Vietnam vets, and they told me about the politicizing of their war and the politics that were mixed in it, and I thought, oh, we'll never get into this, but it was.
Oh yeah,
from day one it was.
I think World War II was the last war where you saw a mass support from America.
Yeah.
After it was Vietnam, and then even the Gulf War was heavily politicized. But up until 9/11, had you even thought about joining the military?
No. I was actually sitting down thinking about this today, but before we got on here, and I was like, I I remember they came in. Do you remember they said you can take the ASVAB and you get out of class for it?
Yep.
And so it was like
That's why I took it.
months. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to get out of class. I'm going to take this. Dude, I shit all over that thing. Yeah.
Dude, I crushed it. I had the Air Force calling me up.
Dude, I was just like,
I actually tried.
I was checking stuff. And I'm like, take your time.
That's how you get in the Marines.
Max, that is how you get in the Marines. So when I went to actually join, like I said, I never thought about it. When I actually joined, he looked at my ASVAB and he goes, "You took the ASVAB?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "You're either dumber than I think you are, or you need to take it again." I said, "Yeah, I really wasn't trying."
He just wanted a day out of school.
Yeah, it was free time off, get out of class. But kind of to rewind, like I'd never thought about it. My family is huge, is like a long line of vets, and you know, every service. I think maybe except the Coast Guard. I don't think we have any Coasties, but everybody but the Coast Guard.
Was your father a vet?
No.
Your grandfather's in the Navy.
Grandfather in the Navy. My other grandfather, my dad's dad, was a Korean War vet in the Army. My aunt was in the Army in Desert Storm. I've got an uncle who's still in. I've got a cousin who's Air Force now. I've got we did the math. We were looking back through. Like I recently did my genealogy and found my great grandfather, who was World War I vet, Silver Star recipient for taking out German machine gun nests. I was like, badass. Never lived that guy.
That is badass because I mean that in World War One, I mean the German machine guns were nobody had them.
Yeah,
and I can't remember what they called them, but they had a specific name for them because of the sound they made.
Right.
And so to take on those things, that takes
like you've never, especially being from Estill County is where they were from. So even worse than Gallatin County, there's nothing out there.
So what was the plan for you pre 9/11?
College, maybe. I was kind of lost.
Just figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, high school, you're lost. I feel like kids now are more prepared than we were because there's options. Back then, it was like, I'll go to school.
Or get somebody pregnant.
Yeah, or get somebody at Gallatin County. I'll get somebody pregnant.
Oh yeah, there was a bunch of people.
Which I did later.
Well,
but
yeah, that's what happens.
But yeah.
So, I mean, when you're a sophomore, junior in high school, obviously nobody knows what they want to be, where they want to do. Some people do, and you're right. When I was, preparing for that, there wasn't even a discussion from my parents. Right? There wasn't like, here's what you can do. Here's what you can. They just, whatever. And maybe that's just their parenting style. But I think now, like, and even with college, I'm seeing this big culture shift that people are like, you don't have to go to college. You can go to a trade school.
Right.
You can do, and it's I would call it, there's more of a push towards secondary education now.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before it was college. That was your secondary education or the military. Whereas now it's like secondary education. It could be this, it could be that, it could be that. You can go apprentice somewhere. You can do this. You can do. It's just, there is way more options. So when you saw that happen, when you were going through that, what were you feeling?
So we watched Towers fall the days after that, and I'd just like to say, like, the America that came together after 9/11 and those days and weeks. Do you remember that? How
it was
close.
You felt it,
knit. Like you drove, you saw American flags hanging. It was a different world. Now people gripe if you hang an American flag.
Yeah, I mean, you felt a lot of American pride after that.
Oh yeah, there was no doubt that there was patriotism, and we were ready for blood, I guess you could say.
And we were all on the same side.
Right. Yeah, there was no sides except our side.
Fucking kill them.
Yeah. And so seeing that, and then I was watching, already being heavily involved in church with my parents. There were church groups that were going down to Ground Zero to help. I was 17. I was like, I'd like to do this. My parents were like, no, not happening. You're 17. You're still in high school. Like, So
your first reaction was to help.
Yeah. I just felt this draw, like this. It was unexplainable because they were like, why do you want to go there? And I was like, I just feel that, like, I need to be there to help people. Like, you seen them digging people out. And I was like, I guess it was the more hands. I was thinking more hands down there. The more hands they had, the more they could be pulling people out, the faster. Even if I was just handing out water, I didn't care.
And a part of the Christian upbringing is, help your fellow man.
Yeah, it's service.
So do you think your upbringing had a lot to do, or had anything to do with your wanting to go and help out and with 9/11?
Yeah, and I think it kind of drove to the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Yeah.
That I knew I couldn't do that. My uncle was in the National Guard already, and he was telling me, they'll pay for your college. And my parents were all about college. Like neither of them went to college, so I would be the first one in my immediate family to go to college. Nobody, maybe one or two in my dad's family had gone to college, so they were like, "You're going to college." So that was, like I said, that was the plan. I'm like,
well, it doesn't sound like that's why you went. You went to the Army, right?
Yeah.
But there are people out there, that's how they get sold on military.
Well, that's how I sold my parents. Because
Okay.
I had them sign for me when I was 17. So I joined when I was 17, March of 2002. I didn't turn 18 until July.
So we're talking a few months after 9/11.
Yeah.
When did you make the decision that this is what I'm going to do? I'm going to join the Army.
I think around December it hit me because we had the, they were dropping bombs in Afghanistan. We weren't in Iraq. We had people in both places, but we weren't there all the way yet. We didn't convoy into Iraq until I was in basic training in 2003, and we watched the convoys live on like CNN or something like that. The drill sergeants has come down. They were like, "You need to watch this. It's historic. This is part of your all's career. You should see this."
So, yeah, that is pretty historic. that's a big deal. But you personally didn't join the Army because of a free college.
That's a perk, but that was not. No, I wanted blood.
So
after I knew like I can't help these people here, I was like, only thing I can compare it to is it was the Pearl Harbor of our era.
yeah, we got hit on American soil.
Yeah, and recruitment after that shot up.
The only difference is we didn't drop 2 nukes on them.
Right.
We got to go in there and take them out one by one.
Instead, we just left them tons of equipment and free money.
Well, we fought the Taliban. Now the Taliban's back.
Yeah.
But that's an ad. We can't change that.
No.
You only did what you signed up to do and what you could do for your country. What people above you did after that, it's out of your hands.
Oh yeah, it is. It's just, and I know I'm skipping ahead here, but it's just a slap in the face, especially to the guys and girls who gave their life, and people who, gave up years of their life to be there.
Yeah,
it's just
and their lives.
And yeah, either they gave their lives totally or gave up part of their lives to be there, and then some of us were never the same again.
And even then, if you do come back for something like that, you don't come back the way you left.
No, not even. So you have support personnel who stay on the fob, and we called them fobbits. Like that was just inter service rivalry is very, very, very prevalent. So we would make fun of each other, and we called them. Like if you stayed on the fob, you were a fobbit. But even those people don't come back the same. And they
what's the fob?
So the fob is your base, where you're set up. It's basically your camp, and you camp out, or not camp out, but that's where everything, like you come in to service your vehicles, refit, get water, fuel, food. People live there because you have to have people there doing communications, taking care of every need you could think of. They're there. You have to have somebody to take care of that. It takes a huge machine. And the people that are in those service roles get a lot of crap, I feel like, and I've been guilty of it too. But they get a lot of crap. But it's like I said, we're all cogs in the machine.
Yeah, you still needed them there so you could do what you could.
Right.
What you needed to do.
But they get mortared. They're still away from.
They're still over there.
Yeah, they're still over there, away from their wife and kids. Now we're finding out they were, if you were on the fob at all, you were exposed to burn pits. And so these burn pits are now causing, lung cancer, cancers all over the body. We're losing guys that.
What's a burn pit?
So the burn pit, you would burn your shit. You would burn uniforms, any of your trash, because there's no place to just bury it over there.
You can't call Rumpke. Rumpke wasn't there?
Rumpke didn't come.
Rumpke didn't come and pick up the trash every Thursday?
No. It was,
They're like, oh my god, this is somebody's head.
yeah.
Put in the dumpster.
So yeah, body parts. I mean, the burn pits. It's kind of just an exposure in general over there. I've seen articles talking about when the Russians left Afghanistan from the war in the 80s, that they had spread depleted uranium throughout the dirt over there to try and kill off.
That's pretty safe stuff, right?
Yeah, depleted uranium. It's safest. It's kind of like
You can
tap
drink it.
water. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So I know a few of we graduated in 2002. So
Yeah.
01, you signed up March 2002. A few of the people we graduated with actually went to the military.
Yeah, I think there were 10 of us when I ended up doing the total. So I mean, 10 out of a class of 69. That's a pretty good chunk.
That's a huge chunk.
Yeah.
Do you know if any of them shared the same sentiment as you, like as to why they were going?
I think I can speak for Longo, because Tony Longo and I were in. He's still in. He's E7, still active duty. He and I pretty much, we ended up
E7's a ranking, right?
yeah,
Yep.
Sergeant First Class. So he's still in, but we joined pretty much for the same reasons. You seen this thing happen to our people, and it was like, oh, we got to do something. It was just this, I don't know, it's like a primal instinct, I guess maybe you could call it. Somebody attacked the tribe. All right, we got to do something about it.
Get them back. So you joined the Army. Was it straight to the infantry?
No, I was field artillery was the. So like I said, my parents would only sign for the Guard. So I was like, all right, I'll go Guard.
Army National Guard.
Army National Guard, out of Carrollton, Kentucky. It was a field artillery unit, and I was like, okay, I'll go there. So it meant going to basic training for 9 weeks, 13 weeks total for training for field artillery. So had to go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, shittiest place in the U.S.
You ever been to Alabama?
Fort Sill's worse.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if you listen to the last episode. I took the ASVAB at Air Force calling me. I signed up, and they said you got to lose weight, and I was like, I'm gonna go to school.
Yeah,
because I'm lazy and I'm fat, so
But I mean, we're all lazy and fat now.
Shit happens, right? So, what's field artillery unit? What is that?
So field artillery, we were self-propelled, meaning that it's basically like it looks like a tank. If you saw it, most people are like, "Oh, you're in tanks." No, it's not a tank technically, but it looks like a tank. We can shoot 155 millimeter bullets 20 miles away.
It's pretty big.
Yeah,
it's not a bullet.
Yeah, well, that's the easiest way. That's the easiest way to describe it for me to anybody that's never seen it, because
So how are you not a tank? Because you're on wheels.
No, we are on wheels. We're still on tracks. But
okay, so you're on tracks, and you can shoot shit far away, and you're not a tank.
You can also shoot shit direct fire, because you've got a crew serve machine gun, which is like a 50 cal or a grenade launcher up top. So
how are you not a tank?
Dude, I don't make these things.
You didn't make the rules. They're like, hey man, were you like, dude, that's a tank? And they're like, no, that's not a tank.
No, literally, I was like, the recruiter brought me down there, and they had howitzer in front of the armory down there, and I was like, that's a cool tank. And he was like, do not call that a tank, especially when we get in here.
Why is it not a tank?
I think it's because we can shoot farther away, and so there's like a rivalry between the arms branches, so between tankers and field artillery guys. And so to keep the difference, if we were tankers or tanks, we would be with the tankers, but we're still part of artillery. So, Fort Sill has always been the home of field artillery.
So what you wrote in this thing?
Oh yeah. So I go to basic training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, learn how to be called a cannon crew member, which is basically like the basic level of how to ride in there, load heavy stuff, shoot the bullets if they need you to, shoot the rounds.
So are you in there with everybody, like, the guys who are going to different areas, or are you just in there with only people who are going to be in field artillery, basic training? Basic training,
so they had what was called OSET, which was that in OSET, you would go to basic training and AIT, which is your advanced individual training, with the same people. So it was all one station. Sometimes you'll see people who will go to like Fort Leonard Wood for basic, and then they get sent somewhere else for like Fort Gordon for communications or something like that. So they'll do basic one place and then AIT another place. But with OSET, it was all one. So it was like 13 weeks or something like that.
And in basic training, you're doing, you're waking up early, running.
Yeah, dude. So it was, basic training was kind of being, from a strict family. It was and it wasn't a shock, a culture shock. Had a few culture shocks throughout the military, and that was one of them, was going to basic, because it was the first night. So you get there and you process in. You got to do all this paperwork, get all your uniforms and stuff like that. And then you actually get sent to your basic training barracks. So we were still waiting on 2 of the other platoons, because you have what's called a battery. So there's 4 platoons.
Like AA, AAA?
Yeah. No, it's called it's a field artillery battery.
Okay.
So it's made up of 4 platoons of guys. So 30 guys, just about to each platoon. And so we were there. I think there were 2 platoons, and we were waiting on the other 2 platoons to finish processing through in the next few days, and then basic training would start in like a week. So we were there like cleaning. You're still getting up every morning at the ass crack of dawn. You're still running everywhere. It was kind of nice because it was like a slow phase into basic training and not 110%
right away.
Right away.
So you can go from 0 to 110, like
Yeah.
0 to like 50, then 50 to 110.
Right. So, I get there. It's the first day. We get it unloaded. You get your room assignment. And by room assignment, I mean a big open room with 30 guys, and this is your bunk. And you've got a locker to put your shit in, and they're teaching you how to keep it dress right, where you keep your socks, how you roll your socks. Everything has to look the same. When I open up my locker, it looks the same as when I open up your locker. And that's 30 guys.
And the rationale, what's the rationale behind all that?
It is, so the small things that you let go in training, you will let go on the battlefield. So if your attention to detail in training is, sighted in, I'm going to keep these guns clean to a T. Like every time I can look at my guy's gun and know that he's got it clean, specific, or his equipment is specific, that either I know he's got it clean or I can grab it and use it because I know he's got it. That attention to detail in wartime or in downtime it can make a huge difference when.
So if it becomes second nature.
Oh yeah.
Then when you are in the heat of battle and it's shit's going down, you know what you can do. You know what you got to do.
Yeah.
Any morons, any idiots in training with you that you're like, I do not want to be on the field with you. You don't name names.
No, I'm going to name names. It was Private Bowman, and he was from Oklahoma, and he talked like this. And we had to do, this was later in basic, we had to do what's called a sit rep, and a sit rep is, they would show us like a table, like a sand table, it literally has sand on it, and they would set up army men, and it was basically like setting up the enemy's camp, and it was you looking down on it. You look for, the situation, what they're doing, are they prepping to move, what equipment they have, all that type of stuff. And
are you talking like little green toy army men?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's how you train for that stuff. Like you set up sand tables, just like you'd see on old military movies where they've got like that big table.
Yeah.
And they're like moving pieces. Like you would track like that. And that was
sand,
just
obviously, because Iraq.
Sand. Yeah.
Okay.
So, they called them sand tables originally, I think, because a lot of the times you'll be out in the middle of nowhere and you can just draw them in the dirt. I can draw, okay, here's the enemy's base, and draw a circle. And this is their tanks. They have 3 tanks. And when you're training your guys, you don't have anything to train with. You kind of just learn to go with what you got. But back to it. So he's got to send up this sit rep, and it gets to the equipment part, and he had copied off somebody. And he goes, 5 motors.
What's a motar?
And then drill sergeant goes, the fuck did you just say? They got 5 motors. And we all just stood there like, what? And he goes, Private Bowman, what the hell is a motar? And he goes, boom, boom, motar. I was like, this guy. And the drill sergeant's like, you mean mortars? Yeah, boom, boom, motars. And I don't know if it's because he didn't know how to spell it, But I mean, that was the Army in general. Like you get those guys, especially when recruiting was super high and they were trying to get anybody in.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah. They were pulling guys in that had, records that they were sponging and getting them in, and you just had to hope
So if you have a wreck, if you have like a felony, you're not allowed to.
No, you can't with a felony.
That seems a little. You don't need to get into that, but it seems
Depends
a little,
on what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems a little fucking stupid.
So you had to kind of hope, like, okay, did this guy just do like money laundering or something?
Yeah, as long as he didn't touch a kid.
Yeah.
I guess.
Right.
I really don't care almost.
It was all situational dependent. You had guys that came through that way that were awesome. That I was like, yeah, I want this dude with me.
Well, plus, you would think somebody who has a felony, obviously they haven't made the best life decisions, and that maybe the military could put them back on the right path.
Yeah, I mean, they were 19-year-old kids, or younger when they had stuff happen or did stuff, and so the Army's a better path for them. I mean, it's the old join the Army or go to jail type adage, except they did jail time, and then when this happened, they were like, there were guys that were in my basic training from Compton that got you can either join the Army or go to jail. And so they had been in gangs and stuff and got sent to basic training.
So are they literally holding their gun sideways trying to shoot it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they saw it in a movie and that's what their gang members did?
And like I said, I mean, so one of my drill sergeants was from Compton. He was a Desert Storm vet. So I remember one day we were out in the field and we were changing our cold weather gear, which is like your long sleeve stuff or your polypropylene type materials that keep you warmer. So he was taking it off. When he took his shirt off, he had bullet holes all through his back. And he knew we were staring because he did it like in front of all of us. And we were all like, shit. He's been shot before. And we were like, he started talking to us. He was like, you guys saw those bullet holes? We were like, yeah. We're like, that happened in Desert Storm. He goes, 3 of them happened in Compton, 3 of them happened in Desert Storm.
Holy shit.
And he was like, basically, he'd join the Army or go to jail. And then 20 years later, he was still going at it.
Well, military to go back to, get shot at. You're going to get shot at either way. You might as well do something good for your country.
Get paid for it. Have some benefits when you get out.
And not have to worry about, getting thrown in jail because you shot somebody back.
When your family's taken care of.
That's fucking... Dude, that's crazy. But you had 50 Cent as a...
Yeah. No, he was mean son of a bitch. Drill Sergeant Breland was his name. And man, he was mean.
I mean, he was mean, but did you get the sense that like he gave a shit about you?
Oh yeah. The drill sergeants that I had totally gave a shit about us. They would never let you know it, but it was kind of one of those things when you first got there, you were like, this guy hates me. Like, he doesn't care if I die. And so let me back up. I was telling you, the first night I was there, we're all upstairs, bunked down. You have people that are on fire guard who stay awake at night. That's part of training. So there's always 2 guys awake at the front door. They're one making sure, like, if there's an emergency, they can run down and tell the drill sergeant. If a fire breaks out, they can get everybody out of the barracks. It goes back to the old, somebody's always on guard, part of the Army. Because World War I, World War II, there wasn't downtime. Somebody was always on guard.
So, I mean, there's a low chance a fire is going to break out. But that wasn't the point.
Right. Yeah, it was getting you in that mindset of it's a shared responsibility. So you would do it for an hour, then the 2 of you would go wake up somebody else. So fire guards come running through. Get your asses downstairs. Get your asses downstairs. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So
waking everybody up.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like 2 a.m. and that's just our barracks room that they're going through. So all 30 of us running down the stairs in our underwear. You learn eventually to sleep with your PT clothes on if you can, which is your physical training, so like your shorts and your shirt. But we're running out in our underwear, and there's this 3 guys in the middle. They had this huge pad downstairs, concrete pad, and it was like a breezeway. So big concrete pillars, and wind could blow through. And in the center, it opened up. So they call them starships. It's really weird. It's like a rectangle building, and the center is hollowed out. So windows can see, like I could see from my barracks across to the other guys in the barracks. Well, one of the guys had ran out and jumped head first off the 2nd story I'm sorry, feet first off the second story. Blam, right on the drill pad.
Why?
It turned out that he was, I think they found a diary or something. He was super depressed, and had been planning on waiting until he was at basic training to kill himself.
Did he die?
No, but so we run down. There's this guy laying there, and his ankles are like already swelling up. They're huge. And my drill sergeant, the one from Compton, was like, "Look at what this dumb motherfucker did to himself." And I was like, "What?"
Oh, this is day one?
Yeah, this is day one. And I was like, "Oh shit, what did I do?" You know, I mean that you have what's called the shark attack when you first get there, where every drill sergeant's coming running at you, and you're like trying to carry your stuff in, and there are three guys in your face at times yelling. And like I said, my dad yelled at me, so it was like, whatever.
You can handle
Like,
it.
this is whatever. So that was my, oh shit, what have I done moment. Like,
When that dude tried to kill himself?
yeah, when they were like, look what this dumb motherfucker
From the
did
second
to himself.
story.
Second story, feet first. I'm like,
That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
yeah.
First of all, I've jumped out of the second story window because somebody's dad came home. And I was just fine.
This guy was not. It was, I don't know how
But why?
he landed,
Did you ever talk to that guy?
but never saw him again.
Well, yeah, of course. You fucking.
We carried him to an ambulance. He was off. He had hit his head too. Like he hit his legs and then, fell back and hit his head. But
I would love just to know. Okay, dude. I first of all, depression's a real. It's
super real.
It's super fucking real. And I know people very close to me who struggle with it, like very, very close to me who struggle with it. Specifically, like my wife, and I don't understand it. I gave up trying to understand it because what I found was the more I tried to understand it, the more it upset the person that it affected.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to put my mindset into theirs, and there was no way I could ever understand it. So I'm now more of a support role. Like I'm not trying to be like,
Not trying to understand.
yeah, because the biggest thing in my life, I'd be like, well, why don't you just stop thinking about that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
She would look at me like, you think I want to think this? You think I want to be feeling this way? You think if I could stop it, I would? So after that, I'm just like, I'm here for you, whatever you need. But I would like to know why that guy, like if he was going to plan on doing it anyway, why go through the trouble of joining the military? Or was it I'm depressed and this is the breaking moment for me?
Right. Right. The military attracts different types of people. So you'll get people who are depressed and they're looking for people with no families, and they're looking for a family. Or, like I said, I think when they looked at he had a diary like up in his wall locker, and when they looked at it, he'd been planning it for a long time. I think maybe his girlfriend had broke up with him. And
so this guy was in basic training for a while. This wasn't his day one.
No, that was day one, but he had brought the diary with him.
Oh,
like
okay.
He'd been planning it. Like it was crazy, and they didn't stop there because, like I said, we watched the war or the convoy into the Iraq war. Everybody going in, and when that happened, we lost 30 guys that went AWOL.
After that,
Yeah, not in just one day, but over like a month-long period. They were literally jumping trains because there were trains, that run through the base. They would jump on the trains and ride them out, or just sneak out because basic training is separated from the rest of the regular Army post.
mm-hmm.
And so they would, jump on trains or
So
or
these
sneak
are
out.
people who were already in the Army, or people in basic training with you?
Basic training with me. So they saw.
Because you can't just quit.
I mean, you can, but everybody else is going to look at you like, what the fuck?
I think it's worse to just fucking run away.
Like, right. That's what I don't get is if you want to quit, just go tell them you want to quit. Or like they had this thing called Christmas Exodus. So at Christmas, you would go home for 2 weeks. Somebody's dumb idea. It's the worst thing ever because you get into the basic training. You're in super great shape now. Like you've been there for a few weeks. Like you're used to this mindset. And then you get to go home and you're like, oh, look at all these nice things to eat, and
Look what
I
I've
don't have to
missed."
run for 2 weeks, and I can drink, and I'm laid up next to this nice warm, significant other. I don't have to do anything, and then 2 weeks later, you're right back in hell.
So a lot of people didn't come back from that, or
Yeah, we had. I remember because it was like a checklist. Like you didn't all arrive at the same time. You had guys that took the bus, that flew, depending on where you're going in the U.S. And so, they would have check-in times. They knew their plane tickets because they gave them their return flight numbers, and they were tracking them. Where you at? We had some guys that showed up, that went home and did drugs, and they gave us they piss tested us right then, like right when we got back. And so they were out of the Army.
so you failed, and that's dishonorable.
Yeah, now it is. I don't know how it was back then. They changed the rules a lot. It used to be, you could come and be like, hey, I have a drug problem. And they would get you into like rehab and stuff. And this is a huge failing on the Army because a lot of guys came back from Afghanistan and Iraq. And if they weren't, they either started doing drugs over there or when they came back.
I mean, Afghanistan's pretty well known for its heroin.
Oh yeah, poppy fields. We would find, you'd find marijuana fields growing randomly. So if you can find that just in like a city landscape, like there's a bakery. I've got a picture I think on my Facebook. There's a bakery, and right in front of it, they're growing marijuana. I'm like, it's kind of a good business idea.
Yeah, smoke a little, eat a little.
Yeah, but
well, so
it's not looked at the same. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Weed is, or
any drug over there.
Okay.
So like they had this, especially the Afghan police and army had this stuff they dipped, just like, like I'm talking like chew, like tobacco chew, and it was bright green. And I can't go into how we found this out, but we found out that it was goat shit that they let dry out, and then they mixed in black tar heroin, and they just put it in their mouth and dip it.
Why the goat shit?
It's a great question.
Well, can't fuck them.
It's probably one of those things I'll go to my death with, like, why the goat shit?
Why not just? I mean, I get the black tar heroin. I'm sure it feels good. I've never tried it because I know it's just going to ruin my life. But goat shit?
Goat shit.
So okay, so let's then move fast forward. So you're as soon as you get out of basic, are you like immediately deployed?
So get out of basic, come back, find out. So
Come back home, or
yeah, came back home. So with guard, you get to come back home. If you're active duty, you're going straight to your active duty station. I was like, and I remember thinking, thank goodness I joined the guard. Like everybody was like, I don't get to go home, and I was like, I do. Like, it sucks, man. Like there's good and bad things about both sides of National Guard and Reserve compared to regular Army. Being active duty, they get more training time. They're there all the time, so they can learn the stuff, 24/7. But at the same time, what I saw was they didn't learn how to think outside the box. They knew the book, but they'd never lived in the civilian world outside of that, unless they had, were older when they joined. But somebody like me who was 17, you go into that, like, you get to a populace of people who already hate you, like Afghanistan, and they didn't know how to talk.
Did everybody hate you?
Not everybody. You kind of just assumed they hated you, and you would try to. I kind of assumed that they hated me, and I would just try to be nice. Like anybody we'd meet, like, okay, you're working with this guy. Oh, hey, assalamu alaikum. Hello, God be with you. Trying to acclimate yourself to that. But let me roll back. So I get out, go to the unit, get married like a dumb private.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we had a girlfriend.
Get married. They're like, okay, you got, we get activated, which means we're.
So you're what, 18 now?
19.
19, getting married.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah, really dumb.
Okay.
It wasn't a stripper, so I mean,
you know what? Guys, then maybe it's not dumb. Maybe it wasn't dumb.
No, it was dumb.
Okay.
It was dumb. Right. It just wasn't as dumb as I could be.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So they.
Why? But what? So why'd you get married?
I think a lot of it happens because I think part of it was because seeing my parents and like I wanted somebody, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, well,
You kind of like wanted what your parents had.
yeah. And they had got married.
That's actually pretty cool. Like yeah, your parents set that example as what a relationship should be that you wanted that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because they got married right out of high school, and I mean they had problems, but like I said, they're still together. That's a pretty rare thing.
So if you're in a marriage with no problems, you're not in a good marriage.
Yeah.
You
guys aren't talking.
Nobody's talking, and somebody's resenting somebody and just holding it inside.
Yeah.
So
So
you get married.
Get married. I think within 2 weeks we were deployed.
So you got married. Boom. Now you're married, but it's a long distance relationship.
Yeah. So they're like, you're going to go to Fort Campbell and train. And like originally they were like, you're going to Iraq, and then they were like, and this was all within like the same day. You're going to Iraq, okay? Like, then they're like, no, you're staying here at Fort Campbell. 101st is going. You guys are going to do this bullshit mission of, they called it. I think it was Noble Eagle. They called it. So it was like a national security. So it was guys doing anti-terrorism around the base, which was actually ended up being a big thing because they had Taliban in the U.S. who were trying to get into U.S. installations back then.
What?
Yeah.
What? Hold on. There were Taliban in the United States.
In the United States, trying to get into U.S. installations, or Taliban supporters, or
what's U.S. installation like
military bases. So like
try to get in illegally, or
yeah, like they found. I remember one time they found rockets in a barn right outside of one of the Fort Campbell gates. And that happened all through the U.S. I mean, we had all the way up until like right before I was going to Afghanistan. They were still infiltrating and trying to get into the bases. And when we started talking about Fort Dix, remind me to talk about that because they tried to kill us, or they were planning to kill us in a certain way, and I can tell you about that.
So you went to Fort Campbell first.
Yeah, Fort Campbell. We get there.
You just blew my fucking mind. I just did not know. I heard obviously here on the news like, oh, Taliban supporter,
yeah,
bomb vest, whatever. But I didn't know that they were trying to infiltrate the actual bases. First of all, how dumb are you to think that? What are you, 2-3 guys?
Yeah,
infiltrate a military base.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they
obviously didn't work.
Didn't work. Thank God. I mean, and it was because they had things in place like Operation Noble Eagle. So what I ended up being on was gate guard. I'm like, this is why I joined the Army.
That's right.
Sitting out here checking IDs, making sure nobody's trying. It was fun. We had a lot of fun, but other than that, it was bullshit. I ended up going home early because they came through and they were like, hey, we don't need as many people for this mission. So if you just got married or you were in college, you can go home.
So let me ask you about gate guard. So every military movie I've ever watched where somebody's got to go through the gate, it's always like a Navy SEAL or a Ranger or some like special ops dude going through the gate, and the gate guard checks their ID, and the special ops dude fucking hates the gate guy.
Oh yeah,
and thinks the gate guy is just a piece of shit. Nobody.
The young guys that would come through were kind of cocky about that. The older guys, and what was really crazy is the military wives that came through, who lived on base, were like, "We appreciate you guys. Like, our husbands are gone already. This is one last thing we have to worry about," because everybody in that community knew, like, there's a threat, and especially then, like it was 2003, legitimate. And so they were like, "Thank you for what you do." They would make us cakes and stuff. So, and at the same time, you're like, this lady from the Taliban, giving me a cake.
It was anthrax with the thing, right?
Yeah, anthrax was huge back then.
But little of these guys, you didn't want it to be there.
Yeah, I didn't want to be there. I didn't choose this.
You wanted to be overseas.
That's part of that inter-service rivalry with the active duty guard, or active duty and National Guard. We all fight, but it's almost like your big brother. Like,
there's love there.
I'll pick on you, but nobody else is going to pick on you.
Yeah. Like, I'll punch you in the face, but if that guy punches you in the face, we got problems.
Yeah, we're kicking his ass.
Okay.
So I come back, get divorced.
Okay, so how quick was that? How quick from marriage to divorce?
It wasn't even a year.
Why? So why the divorce? What happened? And by the way, if I ask a question that you don't want to talk about, just tell me you don't want to talk about it.
No, there's just some infidelity, and I was like, I'm 19, I'm not doing this.
Okay, so you cheated on her?
No.
Okay.
No.
Or him? I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
I know
No,
your
her.
preferences now.
Yeah,
okay. I don't know where you've been. I don't want to assume anything.
I don't have a preference. I just
Okay.
take whatever I can get.
All right. So I mean that obviously makes sense. You're not. This is your first marriage.
Yeah, first marriage, and I was like, I'm not doing this.
Any kids in that marriage?
No, thank
Okay.
God. Thank God. So it was a clean break. I came back.
Was this a Gallatin County girl?
No, Grant County.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Were you two related?
No,
How'd you get a Grant County girl if you weren't related?
I learned
to her?
that I should find a girl I'm related to and get married, because that's how it works.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. That's exactly how it works.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding, babe.
Yeah.
My wife's gonna hear this.
Your lovely wife.
Yes. So, come back and I'm working a civilian job.
You're still active in the military.
Well, on the guard. So when I come back, I'm on just guard orders, which is 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the year, and I loved it then. And what I loved about the guard is it was more than just the mission overseas, because you had the mission in the States too. There's a tornado, hurricane, natural disaster, anything like that, you're getting activated for it. Tons of stuff you can volunteer for, tons of stuff you can do. It was just fun.
Within the U.S.
Yeah.
What the hell, people?
Yeah,
I get the sense that's ultimately why you signed up, to help.
Yeah.
Whether it's put a bullet in the Taliban, whatever, you wanted to help.
Yeah. So I mean, it's service. Like I said, it goes back to that service. I think it was because of the church upbringing, maybe because service was very much a part of it, and that was very much a part of my family. Like, okay, you're here to serve people, and however you do that, as long as you're doing it.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, this is awesome. I'm doing it everywhere. And so, anytime something would happen, especially throughout my career with the guard, hey, until I went on active duty guard, I would be like, yeah, I'll go. You guys need an extra guy? I'll go. So I went to hurricanes, tornadoes, did training missions in like Wisconsin, and it was fun. Like it was, and I could be doing anything from, I did communications for a while, so I could end up doing commo or filling sandbags or whatever, handing out food to people.
But service.
Yeah, actually.
I mean, like, yeah, so there's a hurricane in New Orleans, but you're not going there to party.
No.
Shit's flooded.
Yeah, I went there. I actually went to, I think it was Ike. Was it Hurricane Ike or Tina? Something like that. I remember there was a joke about Tina Turner,
right? Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
And so I can't remember the name of it, but we went down there, and I was doing communications then. They wanted us to set up a network where all of the emergency, each emergency people that were down there, so like different parts. You had like FEMA, people from the state, so they could talk, like an inner communications grid. And so we were going to set up this satellite, and they were like, hey, we don't have a place for you guys to sleep, but there's this ex-lepers colony right down the road.
Like leprosy.
Yeah. You guys can stay there.
Like from the Bible.
Yeah.
Just segregated them because.
And I was like, all I remember thinking was, only would the army, put us in a place like this. And I was like, are we going to get leprosy? And they were like, no, nobody's been in it long enough that you shouldn't get it. And I'm like,
yeah, okay.
So stayed there. It was.
Meanwhile, I'm thinking, when you just said that, you know what I'm thinking about? What you told me 35 minutes ago? The burn pit. I guarantee people are like, is this safe? The armor's like, yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, tons of stuff like that happened.
Okay.
I remember being in a barracks and like asbestos was falling out of the ceiling. I didn't know what asbestos
Like, that's just
was.
snow.
And they were like, no, it's fine. Just brush it off.
It's fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right, so you had to sleep in a leper colony.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I'm sure you slept great.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
But all kinds of stuff like that. I actually, when I came back from Afghanistan, I know I'm jumping forward again, but like when I came back from Afghanistan, we had that huge ice storm in Kentucky in 2009.
Oh, I remember that. I mean, trees are breaking.
Yeah. Like people were just driving. I remember we were driving. So I had joined, I had left artillery and went to an aviation battalion, which was Blackhawks, because I was like, I needed change when I came back from Afghanistan. I was like, I need something different. And I was doing IT in the civilian world, and I was like, doing commo, which is IT, like radios and stuff, on a Blackhawk might be pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I
Do you
joined.
remember?
I'm there for a month, and the ice storm happens. And they're like, oh, you're getting activated. And I'm like, I don't even know anything about Blackhawks. Like,
Yeah, I can press a button.
right. They were like, so they loaded. What was cool, though, was like any other unit, you'd have to drive wherever you're going. We flew down and then got vehicles. So we got to fly in the Blackhawks down.
Speaking of Black, who was Opie O'Connor? You remember Opie, red hair?
Yeah.
Who was his cousin's name, that girl?
Amanda O'Connor?
No. I think her last name was Davies or Andrews or...
I don't know.
Either way, my sophomore year, you remember Kirby Wainscott?
Yeah.
He had a crush on her. I took her on a date. Freshman or sophomore year, I took her to go see Black Hawk Down.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. She left halfway through the movie. She left. She come back. You can tell it by her face. She's been throwing up. Sorry, go ahead. That's a tangent.
That's a red flag right there. You knew then.
Yeah, I was like, you're not the one.
You're not the one.
Nice girl. Very nice girl.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great date movie, man.
I'm an idiot. What can I say?
No, I'm trying to show my wife that stuff. She's like, why would I want to watch this right now?
Yeah, okay, so let's get back to you.
Yeah, so we flew down. I was down there for like 2 weeks helping with the ice storm, and I was in a neighborhood handing out MREs and water. And so I've got a case of MREs on one shoulder and a case of water on the other shoulder. And by that time, all the ice had melted. Well, the night before, we had got more rain, and then it froze again. And I slipped, broke my ankle and my leg mid-calf. And I was like, it was sideways. Like, I got it out underneath me. I was like, oh, it's sideways. I'm like, shit. So the lieutenant that was with us comes running over, and he's like, I think it's fine. I was like, take my boot off. I was like, I need to see whether, like, if I'm just not seeing it right or what. I said, take my boot off. When he took my boot off, it was like sideways.
Oh.
And I was like, you think that's fine?
Yep.
Yeah, get up and walk. So I got up and tried to walk, and I kept falling down. And they were like, you can walk. Let's go. We'll get you to the medic. We'll have him check it out. The medic's like, I don't think it's broken. And luckily, the guy who was in charge of all the ice storm down there was my platoon sergeant in Afghanistan. So when he saw me, he was like, if you're here, you're hurt. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, okay, we're going to take you to the Cave Run Hospital down in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Little podunk hospital that great staff, but I was like, I'll be surprised if they have an x-ray machine. That's how small it was. They x-ray it, and they're like, yeah, you broke your leg and shattered your ankle. I was like, I looked at the medic like, yeah, I'm glad I walked on it.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah, it was good. I'm good. But anyway, so those are the missions that the Guard has. So you can be in the States or overseas. So fast forward 2006, I'd been doing recruiting on and off, like going to fairs and different things like that.
You were a recruiter?
No, like the active recruiter with the Guard would pull guys in who'd been in for a while, and were like, hey, you want to go for help recruiting? And so he took us to Gallatin County. We were at the fair at Gallatin County. I was like, okay. So end up meeting my second wife. We get married in March, I think it was, 2006. And my daughter was supposed to be born in October, I think it was.
Did you get married married, or married
Yeah,
pregnant?
we got, she was pregnant. We knew she was pregnant, but we were already getting married. But it was like, oh shit, like let's move.
How long y'all been dating before?
I mean, it was over a year, I think.
A little slower than the previous one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not jumping into it too fast.
Yeah.
But
so your daughter was born in 2007 then?
no, she was born in
06?
06. Like so she was pregnant for a while, but we were like, when we found out, we were like, oh crap.
Be right by God.
Yeah. So get married. daughter's supposed to be born in October. I'm at training down in Western Kentucky, getting ready for the deployment. I went to the separate. I don't even remember what school it was. I was going to the separate training. It's first day there. I get a phone call. Hey, your wife's going into labor. You got to get back. So I get back. My daughter ends up being born premature. She was 4 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So that was July. And then October rolls around. We leave for Afghanistan.
That's rough, man.
Yeah. She pulled through. She was great. Super healthy.
But 4 pounds? I mean, that's
4 pounds. Yeah.
How premature?
I don't remember the exact months. Like I said, she was supposed to be born in, so 3 months early, maybe something like
Wow.
that.
I mean, that's right on the edge of viability.
Yeah. So she was in.
What's obviously, your wife's 6 months pregnant. You're in training. You're not expecting to get that call.
Yeah. And I'm in Western Kentucky without a vehicle. I'm like, I got to get home.
How'd you get home?
One of the guys that I was in school with there heard what was going on. He was like, my parents live like 2 hours north of here, and I was planning on going to see him today. He's like, I can get you that far. And this is what's awesome about the Guard. Like, the Guard, National Guard is a family. I'm not saying that active duty Army isn't, but like, you spend so much time with the same guys, and you go to so many schools, you start to see some of the same guys or whatever in the Guard. You're more of a tight-knit family. That guy didn't know me, and he was like, I'll take you. He drove me 2 hours. Like I said, he didn't have to do that. He could have just been like, whatever.
So he drove you 2 hours. How'd you get?
And her dad ended up driving down and getting me.
So he's coming down as you're heading up.
Yeah. So then he drives me all the way to UC, where she's, they're going to induce labor because the baby's trying to come, but they're having problems. And so eventually, and I knew, like, it's crazy because at the same time, you're deploying.
So by this time, you already know you're going to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've already got kind of
Did you volunteer for that, or they called you up?
No, they gave us, it's called a warning order. They'll kind of give you like a heads up, like, okay, you guys are slotted for Afghanistan in this time frame. And so October rolls around, and they're like, okay, you're going to go to Fort Dix. And it's only supposed to be Fort Dix,
Okay.
New Jersey. So you're supposed to
You told me to remind you about Dixon. So.
Yeah, so you're supposed to go to Fort Dix, and you'll train there, and then you'll go to Afghanistan. We're like, cool. So October, we get on a plane, go to Fort Dix. We get off the plane, and they're like, why is your entire unit here? And our commanders are like, what do you mean? They're like, oh, this was just supposed to be leadership for like the first 2 months.
This is after your daughter's born?
Yeah.
I want to go back to that just real quickly. What's going through what's going through your mind as a father to watch your kid be born prematurely, 3 months, 4 pounds? What's going through your mind at that time?
It's super scary. That was like, I feel like when it's your kids, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but when it's your kids, it's more scary than anything that could happen to you. Like when you see your kid going through something, even though, she was just being born, but knowing like we could lose her right now, or
It was a real possibility.
yeah, like she might, come out and be too small to be able to survive, or have all kinds of problems. Like they had to give shots to help develop her lungs faster. It's a lot.
Were you able to stay with her and the mom?
We
Through the point where she's good.
They sent us home after 2 days, and so she was staying in the NICU, and
Your daughter's still
my
there.
daughter, yeah. So we had to go home, because they were like, "There's no reason. Like, the mom doesn't need to stay. You can go home, but you guys can come back every day, and stay from these hours, basically visiting hours." What's cool about that, and it takes a special person to do this stuff, is they have people that volunteer to come up and hold NICU babies.
Wow.
Yeah. So because a lot of that healing is skin to skin, that feeling of somebody there. It's crazy what that does. I mean, it does it now. how much better are you when somebody's around compared to
Somebody that I love.
somebody you love is around, or somebody that you can tell cares about you.
Yeah.
Um,
I can tell you I sleep a lot better when my wife's next to me. I can tell you that.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
When that bed's empty, you're like
Yeah, it's tough.
tossing and turning. But they have people that volunteer for that, and it was crazy. They're being in the NICU. There were kids whose parents weren't there, and like one of the babies next to her died while we were there, and there was nobody there, and they never came when we were there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I get it. Like, people are different, I guess, teach their own, but it was just like a kid.
You can't say that about that. Teach their own. That's not something you can say about those kinds of fucking people.
Yeah. I was trying to be.
No.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So, but it sounds like before you deployed, you had at least some peace of mind knowing that you weren't gonna your daughter was gonna live.
Yeah. And actually gave me more time with her before I deployed, because, if she was being born in October, I might get to come home. Like, if I was already gone, I'd get to come home for maybe a week or two. But this gave me
A little more time.
July to October.
Okay. So you get to Afghanistan in October, and you're not supposed to be there?
No, we get to Fort Dix.
Oh, okay.
So we get to Fort Dix, and we're not, like, all the guys are supposed to be there. Leadership's supposed to be there doing training. And they're like, okay, well,
Where's the fuck up?
I have no idea. This is the Army constantly. We ended up being there 6 months altogether.
And Fort Dix is in Texas, you said?
No, New Jersey.
New Jersey, okay.
So we're up there. And what's crazy is now, or before the war ended, like, if you were going to Afghanistan, you would go to, I think, Fort Worth to train, because that's more like the environment of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And you would some people still went to Fort Dix, but we get to Fort Dix and it's 2006. Nobody's really paying attention to Afghanistan. Like, you tell people I don't know how many times, oh, you're getting deployed? Where are you going? Afghanistan. What's going on in Afghanistan? Like, do you watch the news?
Yeah.
And there were so many people. I remember when we were there, my buddy got killed, and I'll talk about him later, but he got killed, and one of my other buddies got blown up, and the wives were together, and they were stopping at, they were going to a veterans, I think it was the Vietnam traveling wall, and they were going to support because they asked them to come. And this guy, a soldier, walks up, and he's like, he saw that they had, the stars, and he was like, where's your husband's at? Like, where are they deployed? And she was like, Afghanistan. He's like, well, at least they're not in Iraq. And she was like, my husband just died in Afghanistan.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, it was just complete shock how many people had no idea.
But to make that statement, I mean,
right,
it's still a very hostile environment.
Yeah. Well, it hadn't ramped up too much. If you look at the numbers, like, it slowly started to build up in the casualties, and that's kind of how I look at it. Like, firefights and casualty rates started to go up each year, but nobody had any clue. 2007, 2008. But when we came back, people were hearing about it because it was in the news. It was in their four minds because they see it on the news every day. But if they weren't seeing it on the news every day, all you saw was Iraq. Fallujah, all this stuff's going on.
And plus, I mean, that's where a lot of the whole conspiracy stuff starts is like, wait a minute, didn't bin Laden do this?
Right.
Isn't he from Afghanistan? Why are we in Iraq? Oh, it's oil, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But then also it seemed like people quickly forgot, like, oh, we're in Afghanistan. Oh, why are we there? Okay, do you not remember?
Right. Like, how do you not know we're in Afghanistan?
Yeah. Okay.
It just blew me away. And my mom and dad would run into it when.
What are your parents like when you break the news, like, hey, I'm going to war?
They're ready to kill me. My mom's like, I'm gonna break your leg, so you can't go. She was like, I shouldn't have signed those papers, but I'm like 21, 22 at that point. And she's like, I'm gonna break your leg, so you can't go. And I'm like, no, this, she understood, like, this is what I want. Like, yeah, I want to go. And it's scary. I mean, for the people that are like, oh, I wasn't scared. They're full of shit.
Yeah.
To know you're going and you may not come back. Yeah. They're scared.
Not only that, you may not. I mean, there's a you're going to an active war zone.
Yeah.
People are trying to actively kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. And for anybody that says they're not scared, my little boy asked me, he said, were you scared? And I'm like, yeah, you are, it's okay to be scared. It's about what you do.
You're still married when you go to Afghanistan, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And so married, so we 6 months of Fort Dix training. While we're at Fort Dix, and this is going back to the Taliban, so they had what was called the Fort Dix 6. And if you want to Google that, it's crazy. They were delivering food to the base. So we would go back, we'd do training out in the field, stay out there for, weeks at a time. And then sometimes we'd go back to where all our stuff was in these barracks. And while we were there, you could order food, if you wanted to, pizza, stuff like that. So we would order pizza. Well, it turns out these guys that were delivering pizza weren't vetted by the military, and they were Taliban. And there were 6 of them. And what they were planning to do is pretend they were coming in to deliver pizza, go in and shoot all these guys up, or put anthrax on the food that they were delivering.
And you were there.
Yeah. And so what's crazy is we didn't even hear it. I remember I was sitting there talking with somebody. We were eating, and I was like, these guys could just walk in. Like, I guess they're vetted. You know what I mean?
You just assume.
Yeah. I can't even get through without an ID and sometimes a vehicle search. But they're like, oh, it's
pizza guy.
Pizza guy. Let him through.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, that changed a lot of stuff, but.
How'd they find them?
I don't remember how they found them.
Listen, if you're listening and you want to find out, you said you can Google it, right?
Yeah, Fort Dix 6.
I just don't put that in like any other website. Google it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like a porn name or something.
It does. It does. It sounds like an adult movie.
Yeah.
But they were trying to kill you, motherfuckers.
Yeah, they wanted to come through, and I mean, it's smart. If you think about it, I'm like, yeah.
How do they find out? Like, how do you find out, oh, I can just pretend to be a pizza guy, or was it just dumb luck?
I don't think it was dumb luck. I think it was, from watching, gathering intel. Like, you can't really sit right outside the gate and watch what's going on, but from a distance, you can be like, well, that guy goes right through.
Yeah, that guy's got a pizza that goes right through. I mean,
yeah,
surveillance is surveillance, right?
Mm-hmm. And they're building rapport with the guys that are at the gate. And those guys are like, oh, it's Jim from Pizza Hut. Come on through, man.
So there's a high likelihood that they actually had gone through several times.
They went through several times a day for
so
year,
they just happened.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, I think they were trying to get the guards and everybody used to seeing them so that they were going back and forth, daily routines, same thing, were harmless. And then one day, boom.
And you're training to go to Afghanistan at this point.
Yeah.
So do you leave from Dix to Afghanistan?
We go from get on a plane from Fort Dix.
And by the fact you're talking to me, obviously their mission failed.
Yeah, they didn't kill me.
Okay.
And we didn't find out about it till we were in Afghanistan. We landed and somebody was like, "Look at this."
Holy shit.
Like, shit.
Like, dude, that's Omar.
Yeah, that's the dude. We did that. We were like, that's the dude that delivered sushi.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're like, okay, well that guy wanted to kill me. I was within feet of a guy who wanted to kill me.
Yeah, and I tipped him.
Oh, you're man. Can I get my money back? I call the sushi place like, listen, you guys hired the enemy. I want free sushi for the rest of my life.
Right. Could you guys do background checks, please?
Yeah.
So, but we leave there, we're going to Afghanistan. It's not a direct flight. I mean, we stopped in Germany.
Is it Delta?
No.
No?
It is actually civilian when you're flying out of the States. It's a big overseas flight. But it's funny, you get on, it looks like a regular Delta flight, but one of the big planes. And so they've got movies and all these, flight attendants, and they're all dressed up and everything looks nice when you're used to like a military C-130 where there's like net seating, and you're like, this is going to suck.
Like, oh, it's not comfortable.
You get on there and except you have a gun in your hand because you got to carry your guns with you the whole time. So just
And they're
being
like,
on
"Sir,
it.
you got to check that."
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, I don't think
No,
so.
they did make us put zip ties through like the chamber of the gun because I was like, yeah, because I'm not going to cut this.
Yeah, because it's impenetrable.
And I'm like, I'm pretty sure we're not the guys you have to worry about, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Like also, if the guys you are worrying about are on this plane, do you really want my gun zip tied?
Right. Yeah. I mean, but it's our entire unit.
Now, are you flying coach, first class, business class?
It's all one. I mean, they fed us meals, like great meals. They took care of us.
I mean, but you're headed to war though.
Yeah.
Like you're sitting next to a guy who's some CFO heading to Germany for a conference, and you're like, dude, I'm gonna go fight for you.
No, it was just us.
Okay.
Just us, just our unit.
Okay.
So that would be kind of weird if you were.
It would be weird, right?
But I mean,
But that even makes less sense to me now that they made you zip tie your guns.
right.
Because if it's just you, what are you going to do? Shoot each other?
Right. Yeah. Or the nice flight.
Also, you're trained to use your weapon. You're not going to accidentally discharge it unless you're Private Bowman, I guess.
Be shooting motors.
Yeah, you might have a motar with you.
Boom, boom.
So you fly. You fly commercial to Germany. You said
To Germany, and then I think it was like Turkey. We went to Turkey from Germany.
Do you get to spend a little bit of time there, or is it like boom, 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 boom?
Like an hour or two, maybe.
Okay,
But
so
it's
not
just
really.
Yeah, you can see it when you're landing. And you're like, Germany. But you end up spending like several hours there because you fly back through the same places. So you go on leave, you come back to the same places. You go back from leave, fly back to the same places. But so you go to Turkey, Germany, trying to remember, somewhere else.
Either way, you end up.
In Afghanistan.
In
In Bagram. Bagram Air Force Base.
You're taking a military plane
Yeah, you take a military
into
plane
Afghanistan,
from your last stop into Afghanistan. And
and you're on field artillery there.
no. So here's where it gets crazy. So Fort Dix, part of the reason the training, like, okay, you're training up, but why this other training? So most of the National Guard units don't get the MOS or the job that they are. We went as what's called a Sec 4 unit, so it's security forces. So all of Fort Dix was training you. It's like almost a mixture of MP duties or infantry duties. So we're going to teach you how to do convoy security, how to train the police, how to do prison security. So dependent, like the guys in Abu Ghraib, they got that training. So basically,
And Abu Ghraib, just for the people who don't know, is
one of the prisons in Iraq. It's
Okay.
one that got really crazy where they were taking pictures with prisoners doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
But
torture and all
yeah.
that. Okay.
so
Those are National Guard people doing that?
some of those were, yeah. But
Okay.
what's crazy is they're like, we're going to teach you everything. That way, whenever you fall in, whatever mission, and it works out because we didn't do the same thing the whole time we were there. So we get there, and as a National Guard unit, you're going to fall in on an active duty unit there. And by fall in, I mean, okay, you're going to be one of our platoons or one of our. So we've got a battery. So that's 4 platoons. We get there, and they're like, I was in 2nd platoon. They were like, all right, 1st platoon, you're going down here in Afghanistan. 2nd platoon, you're going here in Afghanistan. 3rd platoon here, 4th platoon there. We're all at different FOBs, all at different bases, doing different things. And I mean, a lot of it was training the police, but also a lot of it was, humanitarian work, taking stuff out we took a lot of stuff to the kids and the women because women don't get a lot of stuff. They are completely treated like subpar humans, not even human at times. Seeing girls just trying to go to school, walk into school, and the Taliban throws battery acid on them.
Are you kidding me?
No. So it was, that became like one of my, okay, yeah.
Because they weren't allowed to go to school. And is that why? Or?
No, yeah, under the Taliban rule. So if you look back at pictures of like in the 70s, the women were dressed like women in America in the 70s. High heels, dresses, walking. But then when the Taliban regime came in and took over, that's when, Sharia law, different stuff like that.
Yep. Sharia law and all that. People thought that was going to happen in the U.S., but let's not talk about that. So, I mean, you were taking like supplies and stuff to them?
Yeah, we would take them beds, feminine supplies if they needed them, stuff like that. But it was crazy because you would have to get all the women in the village to come up first. And to do that, they won't even come up unless they have an escort from their family. So like an uncle or their husband. Or if we had a female, so we would take female U.S. service members with us, who that was their job. They would, wrap their heads to earn the respect of those women and say, hey, I've got all these supplies out here.
So the females would in like traditional garb.
Traditional garb, wrap their heads and go out and talk to them. But
even though that wasn't their religion, that
right.
wasn't out of respect.
Out of respect, they're still in full kit. They've got their bulletproof vest on, M4 sidearm. So it was crazy because our original mission was, okay, you're going to train the police. You're falling in on this MP company, which is military police.
And when you say training the police, are you training Afghanis or are you training other soldiers?
No, it's military police. We're falling on the military police training the Afghan police, which the Afghan army was and somewhat is pretty good from what I understand now. The people that weren't there too long ago said they were still pretty good. But the Afghan police were it was like the ragamuffins of whoever wanted to join.
Okay.
And so you would get guys that are gung-ho, but they have no education. A lot of it's not on them. They grew up in the hills of Afghanistan, mountains of Afghanistan. They don't know what they're doing.
Kind of like you.
Yeah. Grew up in the hills again.
You can imagine you grew up in the hills of Gallatin County and you didn't go to school. You didn't receive any training.
Yeah.
That's not too different.
No. And it was a huge culture shock to fall in on that because, just sanitation. Like they just throw trash everywhere. So there's trash floating around everywhere. It's a beautiful country.
Is it?
It is. It is. I remember, I don't know how many times, you'd be driving and it's weird because Afghanistan's like this mixture, different parts are jungle and mountain, and then you get mountain and desert. And we were in more of like mountain desert. And so you'd get these beautiful sunsets, and it was like, man, this place could be there'd be minerals just laying all over the ground. And we kept telling people like they should because they were mining for gravel there, to build roads and stuff. We were like, you should mine for different minerals here. Like you guys make tons of money. And I think I remember seeing 5 years ago, they finally are doing that.
But okay.
So we're in Afghanistan, falling in, it's a culture shock. It's trashy.
It's hot as fuck in the day, cold as hell at night.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it depends because it's the same seasons as here. I remember in Oklahoma, it was 15 degrees on our final FTX. And I was like, thank God I'll never be this cold again. Fast forward. I'm bedding down for the night in the mountains of Afghanistan. And I look over and I was like, guys, it's negative
20. You weren't that cold. You were colder.
Yeah. I was laughing. They were, what are you laughing about? And I was like, I had to tell them. They were like, fuck this.
Well, because, you think Afghanistan, all you see, the pictures, everything that's presented to you is desert.
Yeah.
But you're actually, it's a multi-climate zone, it sounds like. You've got desert, mountain area, jungle.
Yeah, and there's no, and don't quote me on the numbers, like, we were so many thousand feet above sea level, and there was no training for that before we got there. Like I said, we were in Fort Dix, New Jersey. And so you get to Afghanistan, and I remember we walked like 2 miles on the fob because the fob's pretty long. Your base is pretty long. So we're walking down, not even carrying anything. And I looked over at my buddy and I was like, I think something's wrong with me. I can't breathe. And he was like, no, me too.
You're like, oh, you're 10,000 feet above sea
yeah.
level. How long are you in Afghanistan for?
A year.
And you're still married through this whole time?
Yeah, married the whole time.
You get to call back home every day, or?
Oh, hell no. No, we would go out for weeks at a time, and then you would come back and refit. And by refit, I mean you'd get more water, ammo, supplies, take a shower. You wouldn't shower. I figured out how to make a one pair of underwear lasts 30 days. You wear it regular for 15 days, and then you cut them off. Good to go, bro.
No more underwear.
No more underwear. Going commando for the other 15 days. So not showering for 30 days.
And because you're out there, you're not shitting, in a nice comfy toilet either.
No, you're not. There is no toilet. There's no toilet. I remember we came to this one village that they were like telling the interpreter, "Oh, we've got a toilet." And we were like, "Okay." So we go in and see this toilet, and they'd built up a mound where you could sit on it. It was dropping right into the well that the rest of the town drank out of.
Sounds about as healthy as a burn pit.
Yeah. So
I would have used it.
Well, we drank several times. The chai that they make. I mean, it was boiled, but you're still not getting all of it.
So, did you get to enjoy some local delicacy? Some local?
I mean, you're living with them. Our interpreters were locals that had been working with the U.S. One of the guys who was our interpreter, he had been doing it since the beginning of the war and had trained with the SF units that had come.
And those guys don't hate you.
No. They're actually, a lot of them are here now. If they prove themselves, hey, I'm not just Taliban or whatever, and got recruited. It's a long process, but a lot of them were able to come back.
Is that why they do it, to try to get to the U.S., trying to get?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them because it's good money. Like, we were paying good money, but it was a very dangerous job.
Yeah,
they would, when they would get time off and get to go home. And Mike is what I'll call him. When Mike got to go home, he would change out of his uniform, because we gave him a uniform to wear so that he looked like he was part of us. And then he would have to take alternate routes home, or, disguise himself or whatever to get home.
Because there's a high likelihood that they were trying to get him.
Yeah, we had several, we had a barber that was on. I was at Fob Sharana, and at Fob Sharana they had a barber that was there. I got my hair cut by him like once, and I remember coming back from a mission. We had been gone for weeks, and I was like, I need to get a haircut. So I was like, I don't feel like cutting it. I'm gonna go in here and let this dude cut it. We got a nice cut, Have somebody cut my hair.
Yeah.
They were like, we don't have a barber anymore. I'm like, what happened? Oh, the Taliban cut his head off.
Fucking A, man.
Yeah. So like it was
for cutting hair.
Yeah, for cutting hair. Just trying to feed his family. I don't know whether he liked us or hated us. Dude was just trying to feed his family.
He's just trying to, yeah. So I mean, those guys. I mean, that's legit danger. And just trying to cut hair. I mean, I can only imagine what they do to the people trying to translate.
Yeah, and people in the towns we would go through. Our interpreters would get hate from them.
Because I can imagine there's going to be supporters of the Taliban. There's going to be supporters of what you guys are doing. The U.S. I would assume the U.S. guys are a little more quiet.
Yeah,
the supporters there, for fear of
they
repercussions.
can't say anything.
But so you were there for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go back or?
No, I did a year there. It was ended up being a pretty rough deployment. We had a lot of guys get hurt. We all came back with shit wrong with us. Like, just from not showering, I got this thing called Jeep Rider's disease. And I'm sorry for whoever's going to Google this, because it's like a hole that opens up on the back of your ass from not showering. And it started, they started seeing it in World War I, World War II, where guys were riding in the Jeeps, and they thought it was where they were bouncing up and down the whole time. And it's like the last part of your skin on your body forms at your coccyx.
Yeah, there. Like your tailbone.
Yeah, your tailbone. And that opens back up from not showering or,
riding in a Jeep.
Yeah.
So you got that.
Got that.
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah. It's a hole that's just there all the time.
I mean, is it cleared now?
No, it's still there. It's kind of closed off, but I still have to get it checked out every now and then to make sure it doesn't open back up.
So what? I mean, anything else happen or anything to talk about?
So it's crazy. I had no clue. So you come back and I have to give a shout out to the Vietnam vets, man. When we flew back from Afghanistan, we land on the tarmac at Fort Dix. It's like 3 a.m, and there were like 50 Vietnam vets who had cooked us hot dogs, had like drinks and stuff for us. They didn't have to do that.
No, but
And we got off and they were like, nobody was here when we got home.
yeah, man. I mean, there were people there, but not to
yeah.
support them.
And they were like, nobody will come home like that again.
Wow.
And that was powerful.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
That they were there to support you.
Yeah.
Like I said, the rationale behind you being there is unimportant to me personally. The fact that you were there, came back, that is enough to deserve some support.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have to do any of that. Those guys got the wrong end of the deal. They could have just been like, whatever.
Oh, then those Vietnam guys, I mean,
yeah,
they had it real rough.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was I got to give a shout out to them because that made a big difference. Something I'll never forget. But
so when do you get back? 2009?
No, we get back March 2008 because we left in March 2008, come back, or March 2007, come back March 2008. But we've been gone from home a year and a half altogether.
Okay.
So get back. You would think there'd be like this long transition period, but it's like 2 weeks of processing out and, getting enrolled in the VA stuff there, going through like a final medical screening, and then you're home.
Yeah, that's it. Boom. Thanks for your service. Have a good time. Are you still active duty? Are you still enlisted?
You have your basically vacation days, your leave that you've built up, and you get to use that for a while until you're off of order. So you're still getting paid for a while, but you don't have to go to, you don't have to report anywhere. It's time for you to like transition back in.
So also, I mean, you're getting paid a pretty good salary while you're over there, right?
It was good. It was depending on your rank. I mean, you're getting danger, combat pay, per diem, which is to pay for your home and your stuff like that. But depending on how many kids you got and how many.
So all this money that you're getting is going back to the wife.
Yeah, I'm not getting any of it,
and to help pay for them.
And I never did get any of it.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, let me back up. I got $800 of it. It came back to $800 in my bank account.
Out of a year's worth of service.
Yeah.
But was your kid at least taken care of during that time?
Yeah. My kid was taken care of.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So were a lot of other people.
Yeah. That sounds like a sore spot. Sounds like a sore spot.
But so come back. Not only am I freshly back from Afghanistan, but I'm also getting divorced. And I've got a 2-year-old girl that I got who doesn't know me.
Yeah.
Has no clue.
Because, I mean, you only got to know her for a few months, and a lot of that time she was in NICU.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know who you are.
No clue. I mean, she'd been told, this is your dad, through pictures like, this is your dad.
Did you get to know her?
Yeah. I mean, it took us a long time to integrate into that. So like I said, I'm dealing with getting divorced. I'm dealing with, just getting back, which is a culture shock in itself. You're just.
Tell me about that. I mean, because
it's weird, man. Like you would think, okay, I lived here for 20 something years, and I've only been gone a year, but so much happens in that year. So much shit stuff you'll forget about until later. Stuff that just lays on you all the time, and it's just I did not sleep for the first year.
Back.
I was living with my parents.
Why is that?
I couldn't sleep. I didn't want the dreams. I didn't want to have bad dreams or crazy dreams. 2, you're so amped up.
So I mean, why do you think you went, like, what's the crazy dreams and bad dreams? What is that?
PTSD. So I mean, stuff that happened over there. So, I mean, I ended up finding out I had PTSD. I have a brain injury.
You saw some crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, anybody that's there has probably seen some crazy shit.
Like, I don't want to pry too much. You're talking about what you want. Say what you want. You tell me to shut the fuck up, whatever. But you saw some crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, I lost a buddy, a good friend, and you see, civilians get killed, kids, just crazy shit that happens. And sometimes it's not even part of the war. Like you'd be driving through the desert on your way somewhere, and a kid stepped on a mine from, the Russians. They thought it was a piece of candy,
And that's like
and you
wasn't
gotta-
even supposed to happen.
yeah, like this is not even shouldn't even happen. So you got to medevac them out.
So I mean, you're coming back from seeing shit like that
To a kid around the same age.
and you get 2 weeks to transition, let's call it.
Yeah.
You no longer technically have to look over your shoulder, right? You're in the U.S. You're on safe soil. You're not having to worry about somebody who's trying to fucking bomb me.
Yeah.
But is that still like a mindset that you're in?
Yeah, I think that was a lot of the reason not sleeping, because I talked to other guys. It was almost like there used to be this switch. You could turn it on and off. All right, I'm on. But it was on for so long that now I can't turn this off.
You couldn't turn it off.
Yeah.
So
and what's crazy, so there's an ex-Army colonel, trying to remember his name. He wrote, it was called About Face, and he was in Vietnam and Korea, and he talked about how everybody has a combat or a cup. And it's when you experience combat trauma, whatever it is, your cup fills up some. And some people's fill up faster. So I had guys that came back and just, I was struggling. I knew they were struggling. You would try to talk about it, but they were just going buck wild crazy. Drugs, alcohol.
they're processing it their own way.
Getting arrested, committing crimes, committing suicide. It just, everybody's was different. You could see it, but nobody was doing anything about it. And as somebody that's going through it, you're trying to do everything like, hey, checking on your guys still, calling your friends. But sometimes that doesn't do anything.
So I don't know if I ever told you this, but it was a few years ago, a while back, we were at John Miller's house at I think a Halloween party, and you and Kate were there.
Yeah.
And a little late in the night, and this guy was kind of hitting on Kate, being very disrespectful. And you come up to me and you're like, hey, I need your help. Like, what's going on? You're like, guys, you can see in your eyes. You're like, he's 6 foot, blonde hair, civilian. I'm like, this guy's having a fucking flashback right now. I went and told Kate, I was like, Kate, something's going on with Terry, man. He is in fucking war mode right now because of some dude who's being disrespectful. And she's like, yeah, I know. She's like, we go through this is shit that happens. I was like, I'm just letting you know. I was like, I'm here. I was like, I'm friends with Terry. I'll help fuck a dude up. I was like, but it sounds like, War Terry is back or is here.
Yeah. He, so get divorced. I met Kate. Kate is, my wife, and she's a nurse, and she's been through the good and the bad of it. Was with me for the last 2 years I was in, and then now that I'm out, retired. And when I drink, especially, it's almost like you got this bottle you shook up. You can hold your thumb over. I can hold my thumb over it all day. I start to drink, and I'm like, hey, Jamie.
Yeah.
My finger slips. So it comes out, and you're like, that dude's psycho.
And I could just see it in your eyes, man. I could sense it, and I could see it, and I was like, this guy's going through some shit. And this was
you learn to turn that switch back on and off, but when you're drinking, and it's been a long process.
the worst thing I do is pee in the dryer when I've been drinking.
I can drink now. I try to stay away from like chugging whiskey, especially the browns. Any of the brown stuff is gonna knock me down, and take the bottle off the cap.
Yeah.
To be honest, I did 12 years. I hurt my hip, and I had surgery, and they were like, you still can't run, so you have to go for what's like a med board. So we go to the med board, and they find everything that I've been hiding. Because when I came back, I found out I've got a brain injury from an IED and other explosions. And
So you were near those explosions?
Yeah, yeah. So to back up for that, we were out on a mission, and we'd been doing it. We'd been going for a long time, like weeks. And I'd become close with my platoon sergeant or my squad leader, and I was a team leader. And I was like, "Hey, my truck, we can take front vehicle, because front vehicle, it's a pretty stressful job. Like, you're looking for IEDs, you're going to be the one that hits an IED, most likely." I was like, "Hey, let me take the lead for a while." He was like, "Dude, that would be awesome." So we go to take the lead, but we had fallen in on the Polish military, and they were like, "No, we are taking the lead." And I was like, "Okay." We hit an IED that day. I'm like,
listen, I'm not going to make a Polak joke. I'm just not.
We made them, dude. They've got American jokes.
Okay, of course they do.
They do. The same Polish jokes we
So
have.
you were there. You saw that.
Yeah.
You obviously felt it.
Yeah, we had got bunched up at a choke point. What's crazy is they went through with a metal detector. The Polish guy got out. The commander went through.
How many Polish people does it take to use a metal detector?
Apparently more, because one did not work.
Yep.
He did not find it.
Well, he found it.
Yeah. Well, they found it the hard way.
Yeah.
Had to medevac those dudes out. I jacked my back up. Your back gets jacked anyway, carrying all the weight. But when we had to pull those guys out of the truck after the IED hit it, and then carry them to the helicopter, that jacked my back up. I remember I got done, and I was like, "God, my back is something's wrong with my back."
And I would assume that you don't want to let these things out, because if you do, you got to get checked out, and that's a possibility that you
can't stay in.
You can't stay.
Before it was don't say anything, and especially you do not have PTSD. You don't say anything.
Well, so I got to share this, because I mean this affected me personally. I'm an attorney. I used to do insurance defense work.
Okay.
Guy, state trooper, Kentucky state trooper. He's on his way to a training, hits some rough road, wet road, flips his car. He's in his car for 6 hours. Punctured lung, broken several bones, broken ribs, fractured skull. He's in there for 6 hours before he actually gets freed. Spends over a year in the hospital. This is a guy, 25, 26 years old. He's a former Marine. So he went from Marine Corps to the state trooper. He's physically deformed. And he is like physically deformed. He should not, in no circumstances should he be going back to work as a state trooper.
Yeah.
But he works his ass off. He's in the hospital for almost a year. That's how bad he was. Works his ass off and basically strong arms his doctor to release him. Kentucky state trooper takes him back. No less than a couple months later, he's chasing after a triple murder suspect. Guy turns a car, shoots at him, rams the cop car, hits the guy in the affected left leg, breaks again, gets infected. And then he's back in the hospital for another 3-4 months. He's got a wife and a kid. After that, I can't go into details with that, but he ends up, he does some shit as a police officer that gets him in trouble. He ends up in prison, in county jail, not prison, not federal prison, but he had a 2-3 year sentence. Well, as an attorney who's supposed to be defending the Kentucky State Police here against this workers' comp claim that he filed. And as an attorney, you go through, it's your job to get his medical records.
Okay.
Well, in gathering his medical records, I got his VA records. And you see this guy who gets out of the military at 24, 25 years old. And instantly he's at the VA and he's complaining of nightmares, depression, all the signs that we now know are PTSD.
Right.
Not once did that fucking guy get diagnosed with PTSD from the VA. Okay? He was diagnosed with anxiety. And he told me the only reason that they did that is so they didn't have to pay him his full disability.
Yeah.
So the guy clearly had PTSD. And that plays, so his PTSD that he should have been diagnosed with from the VA is one of the reasons that he actually ends up going to jail.
Yeah, untreated, it will affect your decision making.
Yeah, because his decision making, you know the guy on the soapbox that was saying some shit?
Yeah.
And you wanted to go beat the shit out of him?
Yeah.
Fill in the blanks, okay?
Gotcha.
But this was as a police officer. So I get him to an expert. Okay, I'm defending the state police, and I got to defend them. He finally gets diagnosed with PTSD. The VA still doesn't accept that diagnosis.
Of course they don't.
Anxiety. I watched this guy go from a decorated, he was in the war, decorated Marine, Kentucky State Trooper, to convicted felon.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Because
service.
The VA failed him.
Yeah.
And I watched this guy's life fall apart in front of my fucking eyes. And it affects me to this day.
We can do better.
I ended up writing a letter to the judge saying, and basically telling him everything. He was supposed to do 2 years in jail. Was able to get him out within like 5 months on work release. But it's one thing I want to talk to you about, because is that common practice
for that to happen?
Yeah, for a guy who so clearly has PTSD to get diagnosed with anxiety.
It was. It's like they didn't want to touch it. It became a hot word almost. And what's crazy is PTSD is really weird. Like I had it a little bit when I came back, but it was, like I said, it was don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. And also don't talk about it. You're not going to be diagnosed with it. Because it's weird. Like they don't want to put a label on it. They'd rather put anxiety or depression or something like that on it. And I don't know where that came from or what part of the VA administration caused that. Because what's crazy is down here at the lower level where you're going to see the doctor every day, most of the doctors and the staff care about you and are pretty good. My doctor at the VA is pretty damn good.
Well, it's the same thing. Like you're in the military, right? Like you did your job, and the guys that you worked with at that level, for the most part, were great. But the higher up it went, now
you're just a face.
You're just a number.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably at the VA too. Like your doctor wants to help you. He could probably go to a hospital and make 3 times the money.
Yeah. There's a person looking at his file. So how it works is you file a claim. Okay, I've been diagnosed with all this, and
which you didn't want to be.
Right. You didn't ask for that. And you're not.
It sounds like you were hiding most of your injuries anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So in mine, like I said, I got out and or I go to this med board and they're like, you can't stay in with this. You can't stay in with this. How long have you had 2008? You've had this since 2007, 2008? I'm like, yeah. Like, you can't stay in. So it was like a domino effect because it was everybody's back hurt from carrying gear. That was just part of it. Most of us, you knew who had PTSD in the unit. You knew who had it the worst. You knew who had it, and it almost became a joke because the VA wasn't going to handle it. You weren't allowed to talk about it, so we would joke about it. And that's what you do in the military. You have a sick sense of humor. You joke about shit, and that's how you process and cope with it.
While you're in.
Yeah.
But after you're out.
No, we still have a pretty sick sense of humor. But you joke. I mean, you joke about it, but that's part of the way you talk to each other.
What's going through your mind, your emotions when you're being told you'll never serve again?
Well, a lot of it was like, okay, well, I can get this. I got this hip surgery. That sounds like a hip replacement will fix it. They're like, yeah, hip replacement will fix it. But you're 20. I was 28. you're 28. We won't give you a hip replacement till you're 50 because you can only have 2 in your lifetime. That's changed now. You can have so many hip replacements, but
Yep.
it was like one excuse after another until it became, okay, I've got to get out. I've got to face the sheet music.
How do you transition? Like
What transition?
do you see a therapist?
I don't know. Nobody tells you anything. I had to go through. So I was on active duty at the time because I had taken a job with the Guard that was active duty. So I'm on active duty. You've got to go through Fort Knox to process out. So I go to Fort Knox. They had me process through these things. Okay, here are your benefits. That's basically all it was. So that was 2014. Here are your benefits. Here's numbers you need. If you need help, here's the Veteran Suicide Hotline. Here's your retirement. See ya.
Thanks for your service.
Thanks for your service. Here's a flag. Got a flag. And I remember thinking, no wonder people were killing themselves. Like, you didn't teach me, like you told me these are your benefits, but okay. And so where I had hid it for so long, basically I was medicated, but it was put my head down and push through. And when you're still in, it's a lot easier to process. Sebastian Junger wrote a book called Tribe. I don't know if you've ever read that.
I don't read.
Oh, well, I'll send it to you on tape.
Okay, I'll listen to it.
Okay, I'll send it to you on tape.
Man, all a podcast is just a fancy book on tape.
Exactly.
I'll listen to it all day.
I listen to him all day long.
Okay. Yeah, definitely send it to me. I would love to listen to it.
He was stationed in Afghanistan with the 173rd guys during a really rough part in late part of 2008, 2009, I think. But he talks about when they transitioned back and how much easier it was for the guys who were still in because they were still part of the tribe compared to the guys who were basically got out and weren't part of the tribe anymore. So I was still part of the tribe, until 2014 when I retired. And then it was like one day, I was looking forward to it. I was like, I'm going to spend time with my daughter. I'm going to be home all summer. I'd planned to take off the whole summer.
Are you with Kate at this?
Yeah,
okay.
with Kate. My daughter, my son's not even thought of yet.
Okay.
My daughter, I'm going to spend time with her. We're going to spend the whole summer together. And we did. Summer was great. Then I was like, she went back to school. What do I do? Okay. And what was crazy is that same push when we were younger, you need to go to college. I was like, well, I might want to go to a trade school. People were like, no, you'll never make any money doing a trade school. You'll never make any money. You need to go to college.
Different story now, but yeah.
So yeah, ended up 3 years. I was in my senior year in college. And
Studying what, like business?
Business. I had tried multiple avenues, but I had stuck on business. And I was like, okay, business is it. Like, I enjoy business. I want to open a business. My depression got so bad that my grades were suffering.
Had you had any like before military, before Afghanistan, any issues with depression, anxiety before?
I mean, I would call it like regular teenage depression, that angsty when your hormones are all going crazy. But
yeah.
Nothing like...
Just normal stuff.
Normal stuff, yeah. Nothing like this. This was all new. It was the same as Afghanistan, but it was almost multiplied because I'd stopped. It was like going all these years, and then one day I just sat down and everything caught up.
So, like I said, we talked about this earlier. I've witnessed what depression can do, but can you just explain, like, what does it do to you?
There were days when I just didn't care if I lived. I was like, I got all this to live for, and in the midst of this, it would get better sometimes. You know how it is. It's like waves almost. You're like, you get better a little bit when you're trying new stuff, or you're trying to get out of it. Like, it's almost like you're in a hole.
I don't know personally, but
Yeah.
like I said, with my wife, I've witnessed it. I've seen it where it's like there's ups
and downs, yeah,
and the downs, but the downs are really like can barely get out of bed.
When you're in it, and for somebody if somebody's listening that's never been in it, and you're wondering what it's like when you're depressed. It's like you're in this hole, and somebody else outside doesn't understand. They're like, well, just climb out.
Yeah.
And you're like, don't you fucking think I would if I could? Like,
And
I
that's
cannot get out of this hole.
I think a lot of the stigma with it is the word, right? Because like depressed, like I'm depressed can be a causation thing, meaning I'm depressed because my team didn't win the game,
Right.
right? Whereas being depressed from a clinical standpoint is something completely different.
No, yeah.
There's not necessarily there in your brain. This is just from talking to my wife and just like there's not necessarily a cause to your depression, to you being depressed. You just are that.
Yeah. 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 I mean, there were multiple causes for mine at times. Sometimes it was just like, okay, I've gotten over this. Why am I still depressed? And it got to the point where I was like, I can't do this. And I dropped out of school. And everybody was like, people were pissed. I'm sure my poor wife, I put her through the ringer for those 3 years. She and I were in a good place. Like our marriage was good. It was just me that was depressed. We had my son in there. And it was crazy because it's my belief is that it's demons. You get a demon on you, and you get this demon on you, and you could be the happiest dude in the world. Like, I just had my son, my family's happy and healthy, and then there's this little voice: you should go kill yourself. You're like, what? Why the hell would I do that? You know what I mean? You're like, stop. Like, why is there that impulse? Like, where did that come from? Who said that? Not like an actual voice, but it's like a thought, you know? And it's like, what the fuck? And it's weird how depression works. Because you could, like I said, you could be in like a great thing happening in
Like
your life.
from the outside perspective, everybody thinks
Why are you depressed?
Terry's got it together. I think everything's going good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And by everything we've been taught by society, you're supposed to show just that. You're not supposed to show you've had depression or you're sad or you have anything going on because you got to.
I think that's one of the I try to find positives in cultural shifts.
Yeah.
Because there's so many negatives. I think it's one of the positives of this next generation that we're seeing. There's a shit ton of negatives.
Yeah.
Okay. But one of the positives is they're more in touch with their feelings and their emotions, and they're putting it out there. I think a little too much sometimes.
Yeah.
But growing up, and you've had the same thing. It's like
You don't talk about it.
you don't talk about it. You don't talk about your feelings. You don't talk about your outside world. You bottle that shit in.
Mm-hmm. That's yours.
It's yours to keep. It's yours to hold on to. You don't let that out.
Yeah. What I think too, and that shift was COVID.
Yeah.
Not per se COVID changed it, but being home, the amount of people that started going to counseling and therapy was insane. Like,
Now, did you eventually start going counseling, therapy?
yeah, I've tried counseling. I've tried, therapy, different drugs that the VA had me on, all kinds of shit. Like at one point they had me for my pain issues for my back and my hip. I was taking morphine. Holy
shit.
Yeah. 3 times a day.
That's some pretty highly addictive stuff.
It is. And I quit it cold turkey.
That's hard.
It was nasty, but and by cold turkey I stepped myself down, so it wasn't like bugs were crawling all over me.
Yeah, you
Thank
kind
God.
of okay. That makes that.
I did
that's
it
good.
like a smart way.
That's good.
I told him like I need to be done with this.
And I mean so you drop out of high school. I mean, I'm not drop out. You drop out of college your senior year. Why? Because of the depression.
Yeah, the depression. And I'm like, this is not what I want. This is not like, even if I get through this, I'm still going to be doing the same thing. And I'm like, I kept looking for, so my anniversary comes around, whatever year anniversary I do traditional gifts.
Before we talk about traditional gifts, I'm sorry. You told me to remind you about Fort Dixon, and we're already at the point in your story where we're out of the military.
No, we talked about Fort Dix. It was the Fort Dix 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, I thought you said Fort Dixon.
No, Fort Dix.
You said Fort Dix 6.
Yeah.
Okay, boom, scratch that, deleted, move on, traditional anniversary gifts.
So traditional anniversary gifts, I like to do those. So like 1 year's, copper, wood. So whatever year wood was, I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I'm like, I don't know where we lived in a old Sears and Roebuck house, And so we were doing everything ourselves to remodel.
For those who don't know, like Sears and Roebuck's, that's like cookie cutter, pick a house out of a catalog.
Yeah, it was delivered by a catalog. The previous owner was a World War II vet, and he met this girl, and he said, when I get back from World War II, if I make it, I'll build you a house, and I'm going to marry you. And dude did it. And so when they told us that, I was like, yeah, this is our house.
That's awesome.
Love it.
That's a good story, though.
Yeah, love it. So we buy the house, needs tons of work, and we worked for years. But so we're doing everything. We got all these tools. I was like, I'm going to build something for my wife for that wood anniversary. Never worked with wood before, except maybe with my dad and my grandpa, but not a ton. So I built her this box. This box is probably the ugliest thing that we have in our house now.
But I bet she loved it.
Oh, she still loves it. I keep telling her, let me redo it. But so I get it. And remember that combat cup I told you about? That cup that fills up with trauma? A little bit of my cup emptied when I was working on it. When I was working with my hands, I was making something. I put it into that. It was ugly as hell, but I tried. And I put that into it. And that's how I got into woodworking. And I remember going to my wife and I was like, when I drop out of school, I want to start a woodworking business. And she was like, you can't just drop out of school and start a woodworking business. Like, we got to have a plan. So
Kate does seem like a planner.
Yeah. I was like, okay, fine. Like, I get it. I'm a fly by the seat
Dude,
of my
you got
pants.
me tearing up over here. Go ahead.
I fly by the seat of my pants. She's definitely the planner of the family. But I was like, okay, let me look into this. There was a benefit called, if I hadn't had to think of it, they have a benefit where you can use it to go to a trade school. You use your GI Bill and go to a trade school. But they also will help you start a business with it and pay for part of the equipment. And I was like,
Like a federal bill?
yeah.
Okay.
Voc Rehab. It's called vocational rehab through the VA. There's
I'm
a civilian.
familiar with vocational rehab in general.
Yeah. So this is the VA's version of it.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to treat this like I'm going to delve everything I have into this. If I was in the military and I needed to go to a school, I would pull out the book and read it. So I pulled out the vocational rehab book and read it twice. Headed down so that when I walked in, I was like, I want to start a woodworking business. Here's this, here's this, here's this. The VA's response, what do you think they said?
You need this?
You need to go work at Goodwill for 6 months.
Goodwill?
Goodwill.
What?
So I'm like, off the bat, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? It turned out to be a good thing because I wasn't actually working at Goodwill. Goodwill has a transitional unit for military and disabled people. And that's what Goodwill's, mission is. They put disabled people to work or, give them something to do or help them get hobbies or socialization, stuff like that. And so I went there and they had a computer lab and I was like, what am I supposed to do? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a business plan. Because they were like, you need to have a business plan in 6 months. You needed to have this training done in 6 months.
Yeah, but your previous 3 years of business school had to help out.
That didn't matter.
No, it didn't matter?
Didn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. So because they looked at, oh, you dropped out of school to do this as a red flag. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, you don't want me to waste more money. I don't see it as wasted money. I still want to go back to school and finish my degree eventually.
But it's part of your journey, though.
Yeah, it's part of my journey. And I got one of the best counselors through the VA eventually for my voc rehab. And he was like, here are all these resources. Dude, I was like all about it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this thing so airtight that the VA can't say no. And so I did. I came up with this business plan. I was like, look, I've got A, B, and C. It costs this much. Everything. I had the business plan down to the dollar, forecasted out for 5 years. Found out that I had missed a training at Fort Knox that they were supposed to give me for transitioning out that I had to go back to Fort Knox and take when I was already out of the military for owning your own business. And I was like,
Did you go back?
yeah, went back, did it. And I was like,
Okay.
I'm going. So I did it, and I checked every box.
Didn't you go to school for woodworking?
And that was just to get to school.
So the whole business, that was just to get to the school to learn
part.
how to.
Because I told him, I said, look, if I'm coming to you, I'm more likely to, I said, from my research, because I had to do surveys and everything. Like I had to put surveys out there and ask people, like, would you prefer to buy from somebody who's trained as a woodworker or, yada, yada. Ended up coming back that they'd rather have somebody that's trained. And I was like, well, and also I can fast track myself, not have to watch 5,000 YouTube videos if I'm doing this. So end up UC had a woodworking program, University of Cincinnati. They trained, since the 1800s, they've trained woodworkers and craftsmen.
At
And
UC.
At UC.
University of Cincinnati.
Yep. And they didn't advertise it. And those classes are just sitting there if anybody wants to take them.
I assume it doesn't make them money.
It makes some money. It keeps the program alive. What actually, so you get guys like me coming through, guys and girls coming through who want to be woodworkers, but there's not enough of them now. But the students going to UC are like, oh, I'd like to take an elective. They can take that as an elective, and that's what keeps the program alive.
Okay.
So VA was like, okay, what's left of your GI Bill, I'll pay for that, and give you this amount of money to buy tools.
And woodworking tools are not cheap.
No.
I've seen your Facebook posts of what you've purchased.
Not cheap. And then I was talking to my wife, and I was like, look, I could rent out a building. And thank God I didn't, because as soon as we went to open, COVID slammed.
Mm.
And so everything shut down. And I was like, I wouldn't be working because my kid would be home from school.
Yeah.
I said, but now I can work from home. When she got home from work, I'd go into the garage and work.
And she's a nurse, so she's in the
Yeah,
she's in the war zone.
Yeah,
essentially.
She was in the cardiac cath lab at that point. So stuff with hearts, people coming in with damage to their hearts, stuff like that.
And for those of you who don't know who Kate is, she is, and you meet somebody, and you instantly know that's a good person.
Oh yeah,
That's Kate. That's how I described Kate when I first met her. I was like, that's a good person. I need to stay away from her because,
that's kind of what I thought.
I'll corrupt her.
I was like,
And not in like a sexual way, but
No.
like just in like a general, like she's better than me. Almost like as an individual.
as a human,
As a human.
she has a kind heart, and that kind heart.
In fact, she stuck with your ugly ass
Yeah, I know.
through all the stuff that you've been through.
And put her through. Yeah, like she.
You got to understand, like, there are a lot of men out there, if they went to their wives after saying, hey, I'm going to drop out of business school and I want to be a woodworker, their wives would have been like, get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah. But at the same time, like I was getting my retirement, so we had money coming in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'd get paid to go to school, so it was
The risk wasn't as high.
it's not as high, but it's still like
Worrisome.
And I for 3 years I'd been spinning in circles trying to do school, and she's like, "What the hell is this now?" And it.
And it all stems from that box
That box.
that she still has.
Yeah. She
Probably
keeps
with deck screws.
our family pictures. Yeah, dude, it's made of some shit. It's different colors.
It's love.
It's love. Yeah.
It's love.
The lid warped because I bought Home Depot wood, and so it's got a curved lid.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold on. Use a Home Depot. Home Depot wood's not good wood.
No, please, God. So as a woodworker, like you learn.
Okay, listen. I've got to redo our trash upstairs. I'm building. We have an in cabinet one.
Yeah.
That's completely garbage, and I'm gonna build a new one.
Okay.
I can't buy Home Depot wood.
You can just make sure you seal it. very well, but that still doesn't mean it's. I mean,
This is Home Depot wood right here.
is this plywood or is this
This is plywood,
plywood? You're okay with plywood has that flexibility.
but this is about 4 layers of stain and
Yeah, so
sealer.
it's sealed. But I don't know how many times I've brought wood home from Home Depot and like, all right, lay it in the shop. Next morning I come out and it looks like I'm building Noah's Ark because it's completely.
Okay, so that
Road.
you made a box at a Home Depot wood, and she still loves it. It sounds like
Yeah,
she won't let you take it back.
She must really love me.
She must. I mean, I mean, it really does take a lot of patience with first of all, as guys, we do some dumb shit.
Yeah,
Generally speaking,
we're just dumb.
and then on top of that, we spent 3 years of business school, and now I want to be Geppetto.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want to make a fucking, like it takes a special woman. But it sounds like you said earlier that cup emptied for you.
Yeah.
At that point, then you're like, well, this is my calling. This is what.
Oh yeah, that I knew then. I was like, just working with my hands and wood specifically, and part of it too is healing when somebody buys a piece and I see them how happy they are and pleased with it, and I know that piece is in their house. It's something they enjoy or sits there and they enjoy it, or they gave it to somebody as a gift. And it's weird to think that sometimes, but it's like, that's cool.
It's not weird, dude. It's not weird at all. It's not. I don't know who made that frame right there.
Yeah.
I don't know who I don't know who made those metal brackets. To have a piece in your like this this piece right here, like it's literally a plank of wood with some holes cut in the middle. But yeah. I know you made that.
Yeah. Just took a bourbon barrel and
like it's got bourbon barrel stave. I know you made that. Like that to me is more, even though it probably doesn't take a whole lot of skill to make that.
Yeah.
I could probably make that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just a piece of wood, but it's special because it's made from somebody who actually gives a shit. It's not made by some 9-year-old in China.
Yeah.
Well, actually, China's shipping a lot of this stuff over to Vietnam, by the way, just so you know. But okay, so now we're up to you took some you went to UC.
Mm-hmm. Go to UC. I mean, what's crazy? My grades were suffering before. I had always.
From the woodworking. And now, do you got to take general education, or is it all woodworking?
It was all woodworking, and then also I'd found these entrepreneurial classes. One of them was like you start a business in the class and work through the startup, so you hit every stage of it, and you're actually selling stuff. So I did that. We sold some of my woodworking at UC.
And you've been interviewed too, like by news.
I ended up getting when COVID hit. I'd put all my money. I sold my side by side. Since I was using the garage, I had to build a shed and get everything put in there out of the garage so I could have the entire garage. And so all my money's in the business, and we go to start up. COVID hits, and
I assume some of Kate's money too.
Yeah. When I say my money, I mean
our
Kate's money.
Yeah.
No, it's Kate's money. It's our money. But when everything goes in, I'm like, COVID hits. I'm like, okay, we'll be okay. We're going to be okay. And then it gets to a point where I'm like, I don't have any operating cash because
you got to buy wood.
Yeah. When everything's been put in here, like I don't have anything for advertising. I don't have anything to get out there, like Facebook and stuff like that. It's great for advertising, but you're not getting ahead. Like it takes forever to build up a following. And I'm like, I need to get out and get ahead. I need to get a jump start on this. So I get an email from a guy at SCORE, which is a small business mentoring group that I'd used to start my business. And he was like, hey, I think you should apply for this grant. I was like, what? And I look, and it's a grant through Duke Energy and the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. And they were like, we'll give up to $20,000 to so many recipients that we pick. I was like, I don't need 20,000. So when I wrote my thing, they were like, why do you need it? what are you doing? I was like, look, I don't need 20,000. I just need maybe like $2,000 to help with advertising, stuff like that. They were like, yes. I told them the same story I told you about how I got started. And they were like, we love this. Here's this grant.
I would have took 20 grand.
Yeah.
You don't get to say anything more than that. But because they interviewed you, right? They put it out there.
So they come to me a year later and they're like, hey, we want to do an interview. So I'm like, oh, like, okay, I'll meet you somewhere. And they're like, no, we're going to send a full crew to your house of like camera lighting people, HR people. Like I had like 5 people trying to fit in the shop. It's a small shop with cameras, equipment, lighting. And we filmed a video. You can see it on YouTube.
I've already watched it.
On my Facebook. I mean, for anybody else that's listening that wants to watch it. It was fun. I had a great time doing it.
Do you know where, like, what's it?
It's on YouTube and it's on Instagram. It's on our page, but it's Duke Energy put it out. So Duke was going through and going back and talking to former recipients of the grant and about how they were doing.
So, like, I would maybe Google Duke Energy Wiseman Crossing.
Yeah, Duke Energy Wiseman Crossing, or you can go to Duke Energy's page on YouTube. They have their own YouTube page.
How do you get that name? How does
Wiseman Crossing?
Yeah, Wiseman Crossing. That's WISEMAN Crossing.
So like I said earlier, my dad's family is from Estill County, and my grandma and grandpa had a farm down there. Lived on the farm down there that was a family farm, and the road my grandma was a Wiseman. That was her last name, her maiden name, and the road that they lived on, because the Wisemans that lived there so long, was called Wiseman Crossing. And I was trying to come up with names. I was like Flannery Woodworking, and I was like, no, like I want something different. I just want something, and I want to tie it back to my roots. And so I was like, Wiseman Crossing. And a lot of people are like, I don't know what it means, but now that I've started to put out, I put out the story, and people read it, they're like, that's awesome.
It is. It is a great name. Like, even without knowing the backstory, when you look at the logo, because your logo is pretty cool as well.
That's our family crest. I just updated.
Right. Describe what the logo is.
Logo is a shield with an oak tree in the middle, and then 2 stars above it. And our original Flannery crest was an oak tree and a shield with 2 roses above it.
But doesn't that, like, the fact that you're doing woodworking and your family crest has an oak tree with wood? So when you just look at the logo and look at the name, it almost like screams something deeper. Like there's something deeper here.
Yeah.
There's care, there's love, there's something going into this. And you before what so when you first started opening, what were you making?
Basically small stuff. I started with artisan stuff. I was like, I'm gonna do cutting boards. And it morphed into more of the bourbon stuff when people were like, we want bourbon stuff, we want cigar stuff, and I was like, okay. But it was more cutting boards, spoons, stuff like that. And I enjoy making that stuff. It's tedious, it's small for some of it, but I enjoy it. But like I said, I want to kind of get to the bigger stuff now, and then put that tedious attention to detail into that bigger pieces.
Like what kind of bigger pieces?
Tables. I'm working on. I think I've got 5 slab tables I'm working on right now, and slab tables are basically we just took a tree and cut a cookie shape out of it, like just the straight across, and then you've got to let it dry. I've had them drying for 5 years already. It was when I was just hobby woodworking. I'd found a bunch of free wood, and my wife was like, "What are we gonna do with these 5 slabs of wood?" And I was like,
"Dry them.
They're gonna sit in the garage."
My wife. Well, like, no, they're not.
She was like, "No," but they sat in the garage and dried out, and now I can work with them.
Now, are you have orders for them already? Like,
no, the last one I made was a lot like it. It was a hollowed out log that I'd found, stump, and we'd cut it off, and it was really cool because I made it, and when I put it out there, people went crazy for it. But the first bidder on it was my cousin, who had just got married, and she wanted it as their first piece of furniture for their home. after just getting married. And I was like, yes, I'll sell it to you. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But after that, people were like, hey, you got any more of this? I'm like, I might have to go find some hollow trees because these other ones weren't dry yet.
And, I mean, I've seen the stuff that you post on your Facebook. And you've got some crazy equipment too.
Yeah. CNC machine. I learned all that at UC. I did all the classes there.
And paid for by the GI Bill.
Yep.
So is your website wisemancrossing.com or?
Yep. Wiseman
So
Crossing.com.
WISEMAN crossing.com.
Yep.
Facebook, Instagram.
Just Wiseman Crossing on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
So you know what Jacob does that I like? Jacob Rogers is a blacksmith now, makes some pretty cool shit, but he's been posting these like videos, like little short stuff like Howie, like kind of like a time lapse of how he makes stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've done
I
a
like,
couple of those.
yeah, I've seen some of yours. I like to see a little bit more.
Okay.
Because dude, I go to YouTube and I'll watch
Woodworking.
I'll watch woodwork. Like they'll take these big giant pieces of wood, like tree stumps, and put them on this big lathe that turns it, and I'll watch them just carve something out of it, like a big ass vase. I'm like, I could never do that.
Wood turning is like the most
It's wood turning videos. Yeah,
relaxing and rewarding woodworking to me because it's instantaneous. Like I turn that bowl and it's done. It's not like
So my wife's grandpa, he was a master woodworker, and every year for Christmas he would make us stuff.
That's cool. That's stuff you'll keep forever.
And it looks brand new to this day. Yeah, if you take care of it, obviously if you mess it up, you're not going to do any good. But it got a little bulky, little potpourri in it and stuff. But that's why I wanted to have you on too, is because like if somebody would told me that Terry Flannery, who I went to high school with, graduated with, was a woodworker, I'd be like, you're a moron.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
You're stupid. No, he's not. But you are. And I will tell you right now, buddy, we are 2.5 hours into this.
Oh
thing.
my.
I think it's time to kind of wrap it up.
Okay.
Unless you got more to talk about.
No,
because we're kind of here, right? We're here today.
Let's see where we're at.
This is where you at. But let's. How are you feeling right now? Like in your life in general, where you're at.
I mean, life's hard. I've come to the realization through my faith, and that little voice is still there that I told you about.
Yeah.
That everything's good. You should just go, whatever. I just ignore it. I've learned to be stronger than it. And not everybody can do that. I'm not telling people, hey, you just be stronger than it. I'm telling them that's what I've learned. And each person's going to be different and learn how to cope with that. And so you got to find what works for you.
Find a passion.
Find a passion. There's such a huge calling for the maker movement right now.
I can guarantee you, I'm almost willing to bet any amount of money that voice is never there when you're in the shop.
Oh, no. And I'll lose track of time for hours. Like if it's a day that I'm not supposed to be working and I go in there and I'm working, Kate will come out and be like, it's been 6 hours.
That's how I feel building these.
Yeah. You lose track of time.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on. Last thing you mentioned to me too that I do want to bring up before we stop is the reorg. I want to bring it up again.
Yeah.
That is because it sounds like this personally affects you with, in my opinion, from what I've witnessed with the guy that I told you about earlier, the VA at a high level, the upper levels, is not doing enough for soldiers that are coming home that are suffering from PTSD or even physical disabilities. And Reorg is, just so that you know, is a charity that's actually bigger in the UK. Because believe it or not, other countries have soldiers that go through some shit. Right? Russia or Ukraine, the UK. And Tom Hardy is a big proponent of that. But the guy that was on here last week, Scott Smith, I think he's trying to work with Tom and work with the Reorg. But what Reorg is basically a charity that takes soldiers and tries to teach them skills. Jiu-jitsu's big in it, to acclimate them better
Right.
back to society. So I'll certainly keep you in the loop on that. I know that Scott's really working on that, trying to get that, because it's not really in the U.S. right now.
Right.
It's more in the U.K. It's reorgcharity.com.
Okay.
But he's also doing other stuff too, because he's a big proponent of, he's an Army Ranger, military guy, trying to help people out, like really. So I'll keep you in the loop. I appreciate the time that you've given
Happy
me
to be
today. I think I've been through a lot emotionally just in this past 2.5 hours. You've got an amazing story, and you need to know that. And everybody else needs to know it too. Because you're not the only one out there, going through this shit.
There's people with crazier stories.
The stories don't matter. It's the way that it affects you, So I thank you for that. And I appreciate your time. Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Thanks for having me. Let me tell my story.
I appreciate it, man.
The more we talk about it, the more it's easier for other guys and gals to transition back.
I appreciate it, man. Until next time, this is how we got here. If you have any questions, comments, you want to order something from Terry, go to wisemancrossing.com. Look him up on Facebook. Don't forget to follow him, like him on Instagram. I've seen his work. He makes amazing stuff. If you have any questions for me that you want me to relay to Terry, go to howwegatherejp@gmail.com. That's HWGOTHEREJP@gmail.com. Other than that, you can find us on Facebook at How We Got Here Podcast. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good night.